Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to MitKat Annual Risk Symposium, Mars 2024. First of all, a very happy new year to each one of you. Thank you for making the time to be here. A few announcements before we begin. For those who may need to leave in the middle or are not able to attend till the end, you can see the discussions on our YouTube channel at your convenience. If you have any questions for the panelists, I would request you to please put them in the Q&A box, which is separate from the chat box. Before we begin, let me quickly walk you through the agenda for the day. We will begin with a keynote address by Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma, Chairman of MitKat Advisory. This will be followed by panel discussion 1 on India Risk Outlook 2024, moderated by Colonel Sam, co-founder and MD MitKat Advisory. Is somebody trying to say something? Okay. This will be followed by Ms. Aparna Gudad, Associate Director, Predictive Risk Intelligence at MitKat, unveiling the India Risk Review 2024. We will then have a demo of our risk intel platform, datasurfer.ai, by Mr. Abhijit Kode. This will be followed by panel discussion 2 on geopolitical, socio-economic, environmental, travel, insider, and fraud risks and duty of care, which will be moderated by Lieutenant Colonel Sushil Pradhan, Executive Director and COO, MitKat Advisory. We will then have the final panel discussion for the day on tech trends and opportunities in corporate security, risk and resilience, moderated by Mr. Pawan Desai, co-founder and CEO of MitKat Advisory. Colonel Sam will make the closing remarks before I end the proceedings at 1:30 p.m. We will now begin Mars 2024 with a keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Yudh Seva Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, Chairman, MitKat Advisory. General Sharma has held distinguished leadership staff, instructional and diplomatic assignments, including command of the largest operational force in the world. He led and modernized the logistics of 1.13 million strong Indian Army and was India's defense attaché in London. He has been on the board of advisors and governors of large Indian and global corporations. General Sharma has been decorated for exceptional gallantry as well as distinguished service of the highest order to the nation, including on 2 occasions by the President of Republic of India. General Sharma is an acknowledged thought leader, speaker, author, and leadership coach. He is a strong votary of safe, secure, responsible, and sustainable development. The General has also successfully mentored several startups. General Sharma, over to you for your keynote address.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Good morning to everybody. And from my side also, greetings for the new year. This leap year, I hope, is beneficial to all of you, your companies, your families, and we all prosper in India and South Asia. So I'll start. I was given the charter to speak about India and South Asia by Sam, but I'll try and keep my thoughts in a little bird's eye view to give to you of the world, because in interconnected world, you cannot talk about geographies alone because all get linked to each other. So I'll start by saying that 2024 promised to be a pivotal and tumultuous years for India and South Asia. In fact, I may as far as go to say that perhaps it may lay the foundations for a new emerging global order which will come to be. South Asia, sadly, is the least integrated regions of the world. I think the SARC is on a ventilator. BIMSTEC promised a lot, but still not taken off. And China, which is a non-resident power, has its shadows falling on South Asia and all the effects that takes place. If it had put its act together, South Asia could have been one of the most vibrant regions of the world. But sadly, the geopolitics does not allow it to prosper and blossom that it should be. I hope that in the coming year, things will change, but it looks a little bleak to me. Now, in the fragmented world order, swing states, also known as middle powers, are going to do a lot of influence in the world order. Sitting as they are on strategic crossroads between Russia, China, and the US, these states are going to play a defining role in the world order as it emerges in the territory. Some of the important swing states are India, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Indonesia, Turkey. They are the countries which are going to do a lot of influence in the world because their siding with anybody makes a lot of difference to a lot of people. I think against this fractured landscape, India is well positioned because it sits, like I said, on the strategic crossroad between US, Russia, and China. And the global supply chain derouting, I hope that some of the extra capital will flow to India, and also, more importantly, the technical investments and technical manufacturing will transfer itself to India, making India a fairly important destination, and therefore it will be able to play its role in the world order in a more significant manner, and does affect South Asia per se. Now, before I go into what 24 brings for you, let us look at some of the events of 2023, which will go to cast a shadow on 2024, because some events have got a lingering effect on 2024. And the first among them is the Ukraine war. We all know that we're going to the second frozen winter. Things look like a stalemate there, and a lot of standoff attacks are going on. Kyiv seems to be running out of partners, money, and ammunition, and Russia also seems to be exhausted. I feel that in this year, there's going to be some negotiations, and certain amount of measures forward will go forward in this. India has become neutral in this, and that's an important point I want to bring to you and notice. India has supported Russia in the sense that it has not condemned it, and that is not seen very well by the Western world. The latest visit by EM to Russia was very significant. Mr. Putin met him personally and invited Mr. Modi to come to Russia. And I feel that after the elections, Mr. Modi will visit Russia, and that will going to be a very defining moment in the change of things that are happening in the world today. I would say that India has taken a few inches or half a step towards Russia in this strategic atmosphere. Hamas war is ongoing, and I think it has reached a stage where this year there is going to be some diplomatic negotiation taking place, because the whole world seems to be aligned against the US-Israel nexus. In this context, I must share with you that India, in the initial stages, I think went a little overboard in supporting Israel per se, and therefore its policy of being a supporter of Palestinian was, reduced a bit. And now it's trying to catch up, made a lot of strong statements in the past few weeks, especially yesterday, where it has asked said it is too much is going on and asked for solution to be found there. And therefore, I think certain amount of realistic thinking is taking place in India, because India has always supported Palestine and two-state policy and cannot annoy the Muslim as well as the Arab world, which it seems to have done. Those of you who saw the statements by Maldivian ministers may have noticed that one statement in that is important. They've called Mr. Modi a stooge of Israel. That's the more important part rather than the other part about tourism. So India should not be perceived as being part of the Israeli camp. It is part of the neutral stance, but more pro-Palestinian and the Muslims part. Now, G20, which happened last year, had a big significance because India championed the global south. And that, I think, was the biggest takeaway from G20, besides hosting it very well, coming on stage and having a Delhi declaration, which looked impossible to take. But the global south is what India has championed and has become a leader of that. And that is going to play a significant role, with Brazil being the president. Still, I think India is going to play a major role in being part of the global south. As far as BRICS is concerned, I want to share with you a few important things which have happened in BRICS. India, a lot of people are lining up to become part of BRICS. But who has got membership of BRICS lately? You'll be surprised to know that the people who have taken membership of BRICS are Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, UAE. Now, Iran certainly is something which will show a red flag to the US and the Western world when it becomes part of the BRICS and sits on the table with Russia, China, India, South Africa, and Saudi Arabia. And therefore, BRICS is looking to the Western world as like some kind of a non-weaponized NATO. That's something we will look about. Argentina, which had asked for membership of BRICS, has refused to join BRICS because the presidency of Argentina has become a little right-wing. It is pro-America, and therefore they feel joining the BRICS dilutes the position with the Western world. So clear lines seem to be being drawn between BRICS and the rest of the world, something which South Asia and India will have to take stock of as it goes forward. Quad seems to have gone into a bit of a deep freeze, not a deep freeze, but slow down. Mr. Biden refused to come to India for the Republic Day, and the Quad meeting which was take place that time also, because of which got postponed. I hope it takes place in 2024 after the elections of the presidential elections of US and India. If it doesn't take place this year, then it means that there is a certain amount of rethink going on about the Quad or Quad Plus, And that's something which you have to look at strategically. So you got BRICS, which is becoming little anti, like to say the word, Quad, which was India's going, seems to be slowing down a bit, and what's happening in the world. So you could see a slight shifting of sands taking place, I would say, in the global order. Very mildly, but repeatedly, Mr. Shankar has said that no, India and America are very strategic partners, and the problem of Panun is not going to interfere in it. But I have got little doubts in my mind. There has been a little softening of the relationship. I think after the elections, when India becomes more dominant in the global scene or the regional scene, we'll have to rethink how this is going to build out and take place. So I've come to the elections now. Just a minute. Excuse me, please. India is going to go to elections 2024, and as it looks, the possibility of Mr. Modi winning is there. But here I'd like to add a caveat. I feel that Mr. Modi or the BJP-led go to win with about a 42 to 46% majority. At best, they'll go to 48. That's my take on the voting percentages I've seen over the past years. Now, if that happens, then we have got about 54% of people who are voting against the BJP, which means the way the polarization is taking place in Indian politics, you are either with or against. So with 46% vote share or 42% vote share, we'll have a significant number of people who are going to be anti the establishment, anti the government, and the kind of polarization taking place, some area which will have to be watched for India. Therefore, in my analysis of elections, I feel that Indian elections, the results are going to cause certain amount of polarization, certain amount of social tension, and certain amount of strife can be seen in the world because the parliamentary democracy in India has become a little very fractured. And this will continue in 2024 and the years to come, because in the middle decade, for the next 5 years, this trend will continue. And a lot of adroit diplomacy will have to be done by the ruling party to ensure that a certain amount of semblance of parliamentary democracy continues. And that is the only threat I see to the stability and security of India in some form or the other. Otherwise, I predict a very robust economic growth. In fact, it's going to be quite phenomenal for the next 4 or 5 years. And that macroeconomic indicators indicate, regardless of anything. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I can see yourself. Okay, it'll carry on in that manner, and that will continue to rise economically on the back of AI. I think there's going to be a lot of increase in the economic infrastructure taking place. I don't see any war in the region taking place in the near future, but terrorism will continue to be a threat, especially since Afghanistan seems to have fallen off the radar. They tried to come into the mainstream, but I don't think they're coming in. India is engaging with them very slowly, but the Pakistan-Afghanistan region continues to be unstable. And from there, certain amount of terrorist threat will flow, and that will continue to destabilize certain bit of area, and India will have to remain cautious. The recent attacks in the north region and J&K shows that terrorism is still alive, and India has to be very cautious about it. One thing area which also concerns India is that the geopolitical disruption of the oceans-based transportation is something which you got to worry about. It is said that if the Red Sea turbulence continues, nearly $50 billion of trade which passes through that area of India is going to get affected. And the 11 choke points in the world, nearly $7 to $10 trillion of trade passes through this choke points of East Asia alone. So I feel that with the Houthis, the way they are behaving and the way this Red Sea area is getting destabilized, trade is going to get affected, especially of South Asia, because all of them do a lot of trade through the sea. So that's an area which I think will have to be watched and to be careful. Climate change will continue to cause us concern because it seems to be accelerating, and India has taken a good stand about it, that all countries must take part in it and all countries must do their share. And therefore, I think India's stand on global warming and climate change is very good, and the complete global south is with India on this, which bodes well for us. I think in a sense, I would say that the 2024 is going to be a year of fragile peace, economic development, certain amount of social tension based on the outcome of the elections. The elections in Pakistan are also going to be very fractious because I don't know who's going to win. Either Mr. Nawaz comes into power or Mr. Bhutto comes into power. Both of them are going to be inimical to India because that is the reason on which the elections are fought. Mr. Nawaz slightly less, but Bilawal Bhutto certainly against India. How the election will pan out, how PTI will come out, nobody knows, or election will get postponed. But I still feel that Pakistan will continue to remain unstable, and on life support as far as economy is concerned and be a trouble for India. And I don't see any solution taking place, although no war is also possible. As far as India-China relations are concerned, I see a slight bend taking place there because of BRICS and because of the kind of statements China has been making and the way it is being handled by India. So I don't see much happening there, neither deterioration nor improvement. A stalemate will continue, but slight improvement in the relations can be foreseen. Overall, I think 2024 is going to be a very defining year geopolitically for South Asia and for India. I think we're all going to prosper and do well. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, General Sharma, for setting the tone for what promises to be an enlightening and enriching day, and your candid thoughts on the changing global order and India's role within, as well as the Indian landscape that we can anticipate ahead of the elections, as well as different security issues, among so much more.
Thank you.
We now move on to the first panel discussion on India Risk Outlook for 2024. I have the honor to introduce the chair of the session, alumnus of IIM Calcutta, King's College London, and Joint Services Command and Staff College UK. Colonel Samrendra Kumar is a co-founder and MD of MitKat Advisory. He has been instrumental in making it a formidable global brand. A distinguished veteran, winner of Sword of Honor and President's Gold Medal at Indian Military Academy, Colonel Samrendra commanded a combat unit and has been awarded for distinguished service. He is a member of CII National Task Force on IT and Cybersecurity and an acknowledged thought leader, speaker, and author. He appears on primetime TV and radio, gets invited to leading global forums and B-schools, and he supports veterans, entrepreneurs, and students, and is on the boards of several companies. Sam, sir, the stage is yours.
So can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So thank you, General Sharma, for the excellent overview. And thank you, Ash, for the very generous introduction. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samrendra. Happy New Year. And thank you for enriching Mars 2024 with your gracious presence and enthusiastic participation. I can see almost 300 people turning up early in the morning in the new year. So big thank you for that. We have a power-packed panel. And before I introduced my esteemed panelists, many of them are my good friends, a disclaimer. The views expressed today would be those of individual speakers and do not represent those of their great organizations. The speakers, let me introduce, not in any particular order, Captain Rakesh Sharma. In a glittering career spanning 4 decades, Captain Rakesh Sharma has been in the command of troops in an infantry battalion in war and peace. He's co-founded a couple of successful startups and held leadership assignments with Oracle, Wipro, and Tata Group, leading infrastructure, project management, safety, and ethics. Rakesh is a thought leader and speaker of immense repute. He has been for over a decade, year after year, conducting master classes, the startup management center. I can go on and on about Rakesh, but thank you very much. Pleased to have you with us. Okay. Next we have is Sanjay Sharma. So thank you, Rakesh, sir. Next we have Captain Sanjay Sharma. He is the global security head for Wipro. An ex-Indian Army captain, again with 3 decades of rich and distinguished experience across corporate security, geopolitical risk intel and analysis, investigations, brand protection, FM, admin, BCM, crisis management. Okay, sorry, there was a slight interruption. So Sanjay has worked with leading global brands, Nestle, GE, American Express, IBM, Stanchart, eServe, and many others. He is a people's leader. Sanjay is postgraduate in management and LLB, numerous degrees and certifications, including from institutes of national importance. He is winner of multiple awards and recognitions, including top CSO in India. Always a delight to share the stage with you, Sanjay. Warm welcome. Sanumon MP. CPP, CFE, TAPA certified auditor, founder member of SS Bangalore chapter. So currently, Sanu is the regional director, corporate security Asia for Target, a leading global retailer. Sanu brings 3 decades of rich and diversified experience from armed forces and leading global MNCs, Diageo, Cisco, Wipro, and ICICI Bank. Sanu is a wonderful human being, a good friend, and he has a great sense of humor. We all know. Sanu has reasonable expertise beyond profession in classical music and gourmet cooking. I believe you have won few awards for cooking also. So thank you for making time, Sanu. Next, we have Sanbir Keer. A lot of degrees: CERT, IRM, MBCI, CBCP, CPP, CFE, NIST. There is nearly a dozen more: GRC, ISO, and BS certifications. I'm not reading all of that. Sanbir is a distinguished veteran and accomplished risk professional with over 2 decades in business continuity, organizational resilience, crisis management, and corporate security. Currently, he's the global director for third-party risk management with Thomson Reuters. He handles GRC, ERM, and third-party risk management responsibilities across 194 countries. Oh, I didn't know there were so many, Sanbir. So he's a thought leader and speaker of repute, and good to have you with us, Sanbir.
Thank you, sir.
Next, Gaurav Bajeta. So Captain Gaurav, officer from Sam Bahadur's Gorkha Rifles, currently Vice President and Global Head of Workplace, Admin, Trust and Safety at Urban Company. He manages portfolio across 54 cities in India, Singapore, UAE, hopefully many more countries to you. He's part of leadership core group for strategizing and reimagining risk management at this rapidly growing startup. And we will have a lot of questions for you about startups. You know, how does it feel in that environment? So Gaurav has worked with CBRE. He's passionate about workplace trends and risk management in dynamic startup ecosystem and environment. So Gaurav also anchors the veteran hiring program for Urban Company. I can see a lot of veterans here, and some of you are looking at transition from forces to the second career. So you know whom to connect. Warm welcome, Gaurav.
Thank you so much, sir. And thanks for calling out Sam Bahadur. I'm from his regiment and his school.
Wonderful. So privileged to have you. And I'm so privileged to remember him. Sai Chandrasekhar. Sai is the head of risk and resilience, Society Generale, Global Solution Center. Just trying to get the pronunciation right. No. So Sai is a top people management voice on LinkedIn. Congratulations, Sai. And he heads the enterprise risk management at the company's Global Solution Center, overseeing risk management across IT, banking operation, finance and research services in India for the organization's entities across the world. Sai has over 2 decades of rich and diversified experience in BFI sector, including with leading global brands, HSBC and Stanchart. Sai holds a degree in economics from Bangalore University and general management program from IIM Raipur, a proud recipient of Top 50 Innovators Award. So good to have you with us, Sai.
Thanks, Sam. Pleasure to be here.
So we are on time. So I'll take 2 minutes to set the context, and then thereafter I will come to each of the panelists, and then we will have opening remarks. And then in part one, we'll look more at what are the challenges and risks in 2021. And in part two, we'll look at the solutions. And time permitting, we'll also take questions from the audience. So please reach out for the Q&A box. And as Aishwarya said, it is separate from the chat box. So at the end, each speaker gets about 20 to 30 seconds for a soundbite. So I hope that's fine with everyone. Yeah. So I start with my 2 minutes now. So just to set the context, taking on from where we left last year. Last year, we talked about the 4 Cs. Now let's look at them. COVID has subsided, though not yet fully gone. Conflict continues to raise in Ukraine, and add to that a brutal war in Middle East. Supply chain disruptions across the Red Sea. And by the way, Indian Navy is doing a fabulous job. So keep it up, Indian Navy. Tensions remain high on the Korean Peninsula and across Taiwan Straits. Climate remains a ticking time bomb. I'm just recapitulating everything that Jal Sharma has said. Cybersecurity is disruptive and game-changing, and generative AI and deepfakes are talk of the town. And Sanbir, I'll take you on that. So there was a massive earthquake and a rare aviation accident in Japan early this year. Tech layoffs are making headlines. Youth unemployment remains high. Economic strains on low and middle income people and countries are set to grow. Societal polarization and involuntary immigration continues. Protests are back across the world for a variety of reasons. But today our focus will be firmly on South Asia and India, which is a region of immense promise, intense competition, and inherent fragility. And businesses here are subject to an array of risks, which we'll decode with the panel. India itself enters 2024 with a complex set of challenges. Security postures of China and Pak. There is some toning down of rhetoric with China, but the convergence of these two countries will remain a challenge for us. Hamas-Houthi churn could embolden terror groups in the subcontinent to advance anti-India agenda. There's been some spike in violence in J&K towards the end of the year. Events in Myanmar could spill over to Northeast, and then we will have something on that. Maldives is in the news. Army is going through institutional reorg, theaterization at the top, and Agnivirization at the bottom. Elections across the world and in India, we'll discuss that. Safety, road safety, fire, life safety, women's security, frauds, crime, insider threats, ethics, and then some strains on that. So let me turn to the experts to decode all this. We are on time. Good news is that we're starting the discussion on time. The first round will take about 18 to 20 minutes. Everybody gets about 3 minutes for your opening remarks. So we'll start with you, Sanjay. So how does the situation in India and neighborhood look like from your vantage point? What key risks are likely to engage our attention in 2024? And you can cover these and more in 3 minutes, and any challenges specific to IT and ITS sector, because you have a global responsibility. So all yours, Sanjay.
Thank you, Colonel Sam. Thank you, MitKat, for organizing this event, and very warm welcome. Good morning to everybody attending this webinar. So from, a vantage point at a global level, year 2024 will also experience myriad threats and crises, and that will cause issues around business travel, business operations, and also employee safety. That's not going anywhere. That's going to continue. So delivering employee health, well-being, and security of workforce is going to get tougher in 2024. The 2024 year is going to be a year of elections, with many countries going to elections, including India. It will have its flavor in this region in terms of pre-poll protest, during poll protest, and also, post-poll narratives. This will only, embolden the winner and frustrate the opposition. So it will have its play. Regional dynamics will play a big role in the election as we go polls, and this will change the narrative. More technology being adopted by companies. AI is the new normal, which IT companies and many other firms are talking of. So regulating AI is going to be an effort in vain by governments, because it will be very difficult for governments to put the genie back into the bottle once it's out. And AI will have its own share of issues coming into the cyber attack domain, misinformation, deep fakes, social media polarization. It will become very, very difficult to distinguish between fake news and authentic content. And that will be a true challenge before security organizations. Broadly, in terms of the range of risk, it will hover around cyber physical risks, geopolitical tensions, natural disasters, and climate change. And of course, one new item which I would like to bring on table is talent shortages. So when we talk of AI development and redevelopment and deployment and countering cyber attacks and even physical security domain, adopting a lot of technology, these functions and organizations are likely to experience talent shortages in the near term. And even if you invest more, it'll be marred with a problem of talent retention and further growth and development. So a lot of play of technology will come into picture in the physical domain, and security is likely to become smarter by the day with adoption of technology. More companies I am seeing in Bangalore, also down south here, that they are opening up incident command centers and control rooms. And a lot of hiring is taking place at an entry level to operate these command centers, and they're building up capability. But the differentiator will be how much of AI you can consume and how much of system integration you can consume. So that, I think, will be the narrative for the security function during 2024. And of course, you touched upon a lot on the geopolitics in the regions. There will be a lot of play of military participation in certain countries in the domestic politics. This will include Thailand, which we have already seen, Myanmar, we're already experiencing there, and Pakistan, we are aware. So these three countries, of course, there will be increased participation of military into domestic politics. Regulation is changing. India is also witnessing a lot of traction on creation of new regulation. We saw the farm laws and the withdrawal of farm laws based on protest. Then we saw the new 3 legal codes on CPC, IPC, and Evidence Act, and again that was pulled back. And now we saw, the regionalism at play in Bangalore, where hoardings of companies were brought down to put local language on hoardings. And then we saw a regulation coming in terms of mandating a regional language on signboards. So a lot of, polarization on regionalism will be at play during elections and, post-election also when the country sees the new narrative. Bangladesh is going to be stable after the election, but it will have its narrative in terms of misinformation, and it will have effect on India in some form or the other. So India will have to continue to play a big role. We have seen the G20 summit also experiencing nearly lakhs of cyber attacks by the minute. So geopolitics, polarization is going to be the driver behind cyber attacks in days to come. And that is an item to be kept under watch.
So thank you, Sanjay, for that comprehensive overview. And I picked up a lot of things. I mean, fake news definitely traveling faster than the normal news, and cyber physical challenges, geopolitical tensions, natural disasters, talent shortages, regulatory polarization, regionalization. So I'll pick up one theme pertaining to elections. So democracy seems to be in retreat in large parts of the world. I mean, Putin is a democratically elected leader. So is Lukashenko. So is Viktor Orban. Bangladesh, we saw 41.8% turnout. So democracy in some way. So Sanu, coming to you next, what is your take on the risk outlook for India and neighborhood for 2024? And what can we expect with the elections across the globe and 4 billion people exercising their franchisee across more than 70 countries?
Hey, first of all, thanks, and it's an honor to be here and listening to eminent speakers here. A couple of things I would definitely echo with what they've already mentioned. So I would start like this. Let's look at what has happened in the recent past and what are going to likely to continue. So if not long, at least for next couple of months or an year. So what could seemingly look like a limited impact to a couple of countries has led to an indirect disruption to supply chains at sea recently, right? So, and that would handle about 12% of global trade, vital for the movement of goods between Asia and Europe, and delays to the extent of 3 to 4 weeks. So that's something, an outcome which looks like a conflict, but here it is the impact to the organizations on their supply chain. Climate change, we speak about climate change. I always used to wonder, how are these going to impact our work environment? How are these going to impact organizations? So I would say Panama Canal is a stark reminder of climate crisis and its ripple effect on global supply chains. Panama Canal now continue to restrict the number of vessels that pass through the canal as drought has caused water level at Gatun Lake to drop. And the daily crossings, which was reduced to almost half, from 34 to 36 crossing to 18 normally, and fewer passengers will definitely deprive government of tens and millions of dollars of annual revenue. And it will also add on push up cost of shipping and increase greenhouse gas emissions wherever ship travel longer routes. And this is not just one example. There are a couple of other examples that's coming up. But most importantly, what we need to watch out for and what we need to look ahead is 2024 is a historical election year, as you mentioned. More than 50 countries across the globe, you name it, and that country is there. And in this global election super cycle, billions of people head to poll, accounting to nearly 60% of the global GDP, and India is part of it. So that is something we should look forward to.
So thank you. Thank you, Sanu. I mean, two big takeaways, on the elections, supply chain and climate risks. Sanbir, to you next, and I think you can take it up from there. So as unemployment and societal polarization grows and technological risks remain unchecked, misinformation and disinformation will travel faster because, people are becoming poorer and they have more access to information, and truth will come under pressure. As someone with global responsibilities, while talking about elections, I'm sure misinformation, disinformation, misuse of generative AI and deepfakes must be top of your concerns. And what other risks you foresee from your vantage point? somebody with responsibility for, 194 countries and lots of third parties and the whole ecosystem. All yours, Sanbir.
Thank you so much, sir, and thanks for having me here. So let me begin with some examples of recent use of deepfake. I mean, as probably all of us know, deepfake is the fake spread of news and media. Now, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict has become an active ground of deepfake. It's like an experimentation and execution at the same time. In March 2022, a deepfake video of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, asking his troops to surrender went really viral. What really happened was the sophistication levels of this video was not too advanced, making it easier to decipher. Then there was a deepfake video of Vladimir Putin kind of urging his troops to lay down their weapons and go home. And that went viral on Twitter, now X. In the absence of credible reporting from the ground, deepfake videos caused chaos and confusion for citizens on both sides. It's a classic example of how confusion and uncertainties can change military operations. Very recently, in May 2023, a fake video showing an explosion near the Pentagon headquarters of the US Department of Defense in Washington, D.C. was widely shared on social media, including some people claiming on news mainstreams and Indian channels that it's a verified detail. It was later revealed that the image was probably created by generative artificial intelligence, AI, that can produce the image, that can produce realistic content like text, imagery, audio, and synthetic data. Mind it, synthetic data. However, this is not the first time that generative AI had made a splash. You've seen in the past the Capitol Hill and other events, and the previous elections in the US as well. So moving on from there, deepfake, disinformation, and deception. These would be the key themes which would also impact us as a country and many other countries as we head into the election year. The adoption of generative AI in cognitive warfare poses a significant threat to national security. It's been something which has been talked about by the think tanks, not only of India, but globally. Disinformation, deliberate circulation of false information, rumors aimed at influencing public opinion or obscuring the truth has emerged as a significant challenge, particularly for contemporary democratic societies like India. Besides its domestic utilization by political actors to advance their political agenda, adversarial states have also leveraged it as a major component of their hybrid warfare or gray zone tactics. Let's also remember the Galwan crisis, as well as the Chinese, fake media kind of showing India in a very Indian army in a very bad way. So let's move on from there. Let's look at how this is going to impact us, right? So the emergence of deepfake content will alter the dynamics of information landscape by crowding it or subduing the flow of authentic information. It's both ways. This can lead to what experts term as liar's dividend. Growing awareness about deepfakes would make a skeptical population question the authenticity of real video, making it easier for culprits to dodge justice. Now, coming home, and I guess I have another minute to spare, generative AI has advanced to a point where it can become very doubtful what is the veracity of what we see on a daily basis. Truth versus facts versus the spread of deepfake. It's difficult by the day to understand what it is and how it is spreading. If you look at a promotional video very recently, and I'm talking about the elections in Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, and other states, a very promotional media popular channel, I will not name it, said, using groundbreaking AI technology, lip syncing and voice cloning, we make it possible to send audio and video messages to large audiences with their names, giving them a personalized feeling. The agenda of this particular message was to polarize the election campaigns which were happening specifically for Madhya Pradesh. An interesting correlation here. There was a doctored video clip of superstar Amitabh Bachchan on Kaun Banega Karodpati, calling Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan a liar and portraying the Congress Party CM hopeful Kamal Nath in a positive light. Now that is how tricky it can get. PM Narendra Modi himself has called deepfakes as one of the biggest threats facing Indian system. What could change? With a wider reach through social media, deepfakes can assist or affect situational awareness and imperial decision-making, particularly during crisis periods. And I'll take a pause here.
So thank you. I love that liar's dividend, So thank you, Sanbir. So Rakesh sir, let me change track now. I think we've had too much of risk and that bit. So, I mean, post-COVID, I think one of the most notable transformations has been in nature of work and workplace. And I know as somebody who travels across the globe, probably you would have noticed, is hybrid here to stay? What trends are you picking up globally in terms of work, workers, workplaces? And in the second part, probably if you have time, probably you can still probably cover any quick recommendations on what does the future hold for us?
Thank you again. Thank you, MitKat. Thank you, Colonel Sam. Thank you, General Sharma. Two things before I respond to that question of is hybrid here to stay. Is I'm energized, is all I can say. Early morning here in Delhi, I am energized. I'm actually humbled as well, looking at the speakers, their profiles, and the kind of knowledge they have on the table. Really, really humbled. Again, pardon me for my ignorances as I participate in this, but I'm here to learn. Now, with those words, the question. Ladies and gentlemen, the hybrid is here to stay. Hybrid is here to stay for two reasons. One, because most of the organizations and the organizations that I represented in the past, I have some knowledge of that, as well as the present one that I just superannuated from the Tata Group. Hybrid is here to stay for two reasons, because we are here looking at some positive gains from what we feel were costs that any CFO would get excited upon that he can save. That's one. And second was, what operational people look at is productivity. Productivity was not hampered. For some of the organizations that had some conversations, and these are large organizations, they actually did well. While they saved humongously during those COVID eras, maybe I was from the telecom background, Tata Teleservices was my last post. But to talk about the others as well, while the telecom flourished during the COVID times, and we actually did near 99% or 100% of our revenues, we improved on our EBITDA. We have opened up slowly and gradually. We have learned our lessons on complete hybrid or complete work from home or a mix of it. I am with some responsibility here to say that hybrid is here to stay for two reasons: cost effectiveness and for productivity that we have seen has not taken a dip. That's a short and sweet response to Sam, your question.
And are you kind of picking up any trends as you travel globally? I mean, I went to Dallas, I saw, some things, and maybe you would have your own stories, probably in London or somewhere else.
Last quarter, as we were discussing, I was in London, and that was a personal trip though. But what I picked up was my conversations with multiple people who I interacted with across UK, that the trends, the names may change from a scooter to a WeWork to a co-work and to whatever else, but at the end of the day, each one was utilizing those spaces, and 100% of those spaces in the time and space that I was in there. And when asked what suits us, they said is the flexibility. The word used was flexibility, that gives us an opportunity to be at office when we need, obviously with prior information. And that also helps us to do things when we would want to do both office and a little homework when we are working from home. So, and to me, the people who I was talking to were responsible designation holders and had responsibilities encompassing both project management as well as security and safety management personnel. They had their things in places as they have put in during COVID times, and that was really working well for them. So that is something that I picked up. If I can talk on a personal level, my son, who is a lawyer, he works out of a large F1 Formula car company out of Oxfordshire in London. And he also, was one of the beneficiaries of working from home model, without impacting both the cybersecurity or the IT security, as we call it, because of the nature of work that they do and the kind of work that they do. So both closer home and in my conversations over a cup of coffee, multiple cups of coffee, actually, given the London environment, one was able to find that out, that hybrid is here to stay. Well, Sam.
So yeah, Rakesh sir, thank you. So I picked up the following. And so hybrid is here to stay because A, it is cost effective. 2, there is no loss of productivity. 3, there is no compromise on security despite blurring of the perimeter. And 4th, there is flexibility. So this
Absolutely.
is what I picked up. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, I mean, Gaurav, never a dull moment in your work. How do you see the operational challenges in gig economy in the rapidly exponentially growing startups and specifically in the e-commerce space? I know 50% of your workforce is actually in touch with inside people's houses. So, I mean, you work for a very peculiar company and a rapidly growing one. So your thoughts.
Thank you, Sam, sir. Before I even, talk of the gig economy and the platform economy, I actually want to talk about a startup that I'm particularly very proud of. That startup is called MitKat. And it's a group of veterans who had a vision and came together and executed the vision so well. They've created a world-class company and brought us all together at this platform. So this is the opportunities that a startup has. Doesn't matter where your age is, what your background is, but as long as you have the vision and you can execute the vision, there you go. I mean, success is there with you. So thank you so much, MitKat, for this fabulous Mars session and having me over. I represent a company called Urban Company, which was Urban Clap, called Urban Clap earlier, and I hope all of you use our services extensively. Specific to the gig economy, basically a gig economy is the business where a platform or an app brings together the service provider and the customer together. The Ola, Uber, Zomato, Swiggy, Urban Company. So it's more real for everybody. At present, there are around 90 lakh gig workers, and the Niti Aayog expects this number to go 3x within this decade. India is the 5th highest funded country in terms of funding to startups, right? And we generate nearly 50% employment for the blue collar workforce through the gig economy. And definitely this is an area which is going to be a significant building block for the 5 trillion economy mission that we have as a country. However, 2023 wasn't like the sunshine year for this ecosystem. We only had $7 billion inflow, which is like a 73% decline to the previous year. With its set of challenges, there is growth, so there is, significant challenges. I will just, while there's, like Sir said, there is never a dull moment in a startup or the gig economy, platform economy. I will just pick the top 3 challenges that I feel, which I, as part of Urban Company for the last 4 years, have particularly seen. First is that there is no central regulatory framework which controls the gig economy. The relationship that the platforms or the companies have with their partners is of a partner and a platform. It's not employee-employer. So they do not come under the labor law. Therefore, there is a lot of ambiguity within this relationship, which opens up a lot of opportunity for people to misrepresent and misinterpret, which creates, a lot of, protests, a lot of partners not accepting the terms and conditions, the companies not being very transparent with the terms and conditions. So it works both ways. So this is, I think, the significant biggest challenge of the gig economy right now. There has been some green shoots in this area. There have some states like Rajasthan, which has passed a social security bill for the gig workers. Telangana and some other Congress-ruled states are, working on it. But definitely, I think there is a requirement of a central policy and a framework. So therefore, there should be no ambiguity and the law should govern how everybody operates. The second biggest important challenge I would feel is the safety and health of the workforce. Urban Company delivers around 80,000 services, which means 80,000 people on the road every day from place X to Y. There is threat of road safety, accidents. Then we have a very unique, business where we are the only service provider that enters the house of the customer, stays in the house for a duration of around 1 year. So there's also a risk of, physical assault. There's misconduct. So a lot of other operational hazards that we have to prepare ourselves. And the third aspect, I think the challenge is the fast growth that startups face. Like the 0 to 1 and 0 to 5 journeys is so quick. So there are no policies. There is a lot of hustling that happens. It's a very, very dynamic environment. But along with challenges, I think lies the opportunity. Because there is no procedures and policies available, that's where I'd say people like the veterans or anybody who would want to put his hand up and say, okay, I will figure this out for you. And this is where they shine. Thank you.
So I'll come to the veterans part probably later if we have time. So thank you very much. I picked up three things, three challenges with gig economy is no central regulatory framework for the gig economy. Second is safety, health and security of thousands of workers who are moving around every day and often working against tight deadlines, increasingly in close contact with the customers, which leads to friction, leading to operational risks, leading to financial, regulatory, legal, reputational, all kinds of risks. So good job done. And rapid growth, of course, I see more as an opportunity rather than as a challenge. Okay. So thank you. And Sai, thank you very much for your patience. I really appreciate it, and to you for your opening remarks to cover anything which has been missed out. Also your thoughts on developments in and risks related to banking sector, GCCs, and I know BFSI is always early adopter of AI and all technologies, and any thoughts on governance compliance in AI era. So all yours.
Thank you, Sam. Firstly, thanks for inviting me to this MitKat event and more so to this panel discussion. I have been reflecting upon all that my esteemed co-panelists have been saying so far, and I realized all of that does also have an impact on the banking and financial services industry. In fact, the BFSI seems to be vulnerable to almost all the risks out there. As painful as this might seem, this is what keeps many like me employed. As much as I said that on a lighter note, I have to highlight a few of the manifestations of these risks that have a significant impact in 2024 and beyond. Given the paucity of time, I will probably touch upon a few important ones. There is a lot happening around climate and ESG. The reinforcement around these topics are making banks to take cognizance of what and how they can make an impact. Apart from organizational commitments to embrace ESG in the way they conduct their businesses, banks have the additional ability to influence the business of their clients to comply with these requirements. Managing ESG and compliance or managing ESG and climate risk will become and will continue to be an emerging priority in most boardroom discussions. Another space that might continue to enjoy significance is cybersecurity. The sense I get now is that we may be in for a very sophisticated cybersecurity battleground than we had to deal with a couple of years ago. I feel that it is likely that cyber criminals are making the investments to up their game as well, which makes it imperative for organizations to continue investing in managing cyber risks and stay ahead of the curve. Third-party risks are again emerging as the biggest game changer in the risk management space for banks, where there is a clear dependency on various third-party enablers to maximize efficiencies. In many cases, third-party engagements extend even into core banking activities, which place a huge reliance on third parties to even keep the lights on and have some of the basic service commitments being met. I'll move on quickly to data privacy, which is another space with a number of ancillary implications emerging around it. We've all heard of SHREMS and the impact it has on cross-border organizations providing or doing businesses with organizations in the Eurozone. With many nations implementing and revamping their data protection laws, it is likely that SHREMS as a trend is likely to stay for longer. As an extension of this, we are likely to run into some interesting situations with organizations that are investing in data and AI. You rightly mentioned, yes, we are early adopters there, but there is a lot of skepticism around AI, and somehow there has been some negative iterations coming along. Whilst a few countries have laws that ban the usage of AI, and this may seem like an overkill, it is likely that we will see end user sentiments on use of AI becoming a bit of a thing to be managed as a risk by many organizations. Over the coming months, I suspect that it is likely that the regulatory environment will become a little too intrusive in the context of all the thematic risks that have been emanating around the world. Most of us saw this coming, but the intensity is something we are only able to guess at the moment. From what I can tell, the stringency around regulating third-party risks, operational resilience, data and AI, cybersecurity, and climate risk will usher in more changes to the dynamics of risk management in the banking industry. Incident.
No,
Sorry.
please continue. Yeah.
I mean, just a closing remark here. Incidentally, all that I mentioned is also probably applicable to GCCs as well, and the situation is a bit more compounded by the erosion of expertise due to dependencies on automation, digitization, outsourcing, and juniorization. This erosion, for me, is something that may be a temporary phenomenon if organizations take the measures to control it, but it is happening at a very bad time, leading to some short-term and hopefully reversible consequences. That's it from me for now, Sam. Over to you.
So thank you very much, Sai. I picked up the following: climate and ESG risks and related challenges. Cybersecurity remains disruptive and game-changing. Third-party risks, data privacy, AI, and the whole gambit of regulatory risks. So those I picked up as the top ones. That kind of brings us to the end of part one, which is so good. We are slightly behind schedule, so I don't see we'll be able to pick up a lot of the audience questions. But please feel free to type in the Q&A box, and would request esteemed panelists and experts to kindly type in the answers. If there are any other experts also, please feel free to type in the answers, because wisdom is not our sole prerogative. And Gaurav, thank you for the very kind words about MitKat. I must acknowledge it. And to everyone else in the chat box, Dhiren Gold, Dr. Rajiv Mathur, and many others I could pick up. So thank you for your very kind words. And I think we keep us going, 300 people turning up here early in the new year. So that itself shows the support that we enjoy among the people. So thank you very much. What we'll do now is that we'll move quickly and we'll keep the round to really brief, really rapid fire, not more than 60 to 90 seconds for each panelist. So Sanjay, you covered key risks very well. Can you highlight, as the global head of security, how do you plan to mitigate these risks on an ongoing basis? 90 seconds, all yours.
So one is certainly the talent quality that we deploy, the security structures that we have at a org level, and how we realign security to inform about changing environment to the board. That is key. Apart from this, in terms of the integration of technology, so system integration is going to play a big role, and adoption of AI in management of geopolitical risks and threats and alarms and alerts is going to be the key thing of a focus area for many companies. We've already matured up here. So GSOC maturity is something which organizations can invest in terms of bringing more technology and more power. Regular training around applications, upskilling of people, and then, providing them a career of choice. That's going to be the key thing. Proactive threat intelligence is here to stay and only going to advance up further. So we should be able to preempt. When we do the risk management models, I think that needs a reform and a change. Mostly, I have not seen many companies do geopolitical stress test. I think companies can pick up things like this, or a climate change stress test. How do they deal with these issues when these risks are called out in all forums and all reports? The organizations need to really align in terms of what they are testing on tabletop exercises or role play exercises, and empowering the board. So those things, I think, will be the key thing in terms of contingency planning measures that any company should adopt. IT here is not different. Financial fluctuation will remain, but we must steer our way to adopt the issues posed by talent shortages, budgeting, and still make the most of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Very comprehensive. Talent management, conversations with the board, management of geopolitical risks, and stress testing geopolitics and climate related risks. GSOC maturity, training, upskilling, career management, proactive threat intel, incident and crisis management. So that's a plate full. Sanu, to you next. Black swans. COVID brought black swan into vogue. Is there something we are missing this year?
I think this terminology is very interesting. Black swan, gray rhino, white elephant, and recently black jellyfish. I'm glad that you gave this opportunity. That also gives me an opportunity to read and understand, and very, very interesting. So first of all, disclaimer that I'm not a scientist, I'm not an expert, but the event that I'm going to speak about could be more fall into a gray rhino category. So some of the scientists are now sounding an alarm for the so-called solar storm. This could wipe out internet for weeks or even months. It could impact radio communications, electric power grids, navigation signals, and it could pose a risk to even spacecraft. Now, what's it all about? So, getting to the basics, the sun is a huge ball of hot gas that generates a magnetic field. Now, this magnetic field goes through a cycle called switches position every 11 years. Which means it flips its magnetic north and south. And this activity affects the surface of the sun, which is sunspots. And the solar maximum is the peak of this activity, which was earlier predicted for 2025. Now the flames are going to be too strong, and this is now predicted for 2024. It can disrupt communication, navigation. The brighter side of this, it can create a beautiful aurora of northern lights in the sky. Did it happen in the past? Because it's 11-year cycle. This is the 25th solar storm that's expected. It happened in 1859. So we had a bright sunlight in the middle of night. People thought it's daylight. They stepped out of home. But those days, fortunately, electric grids and internet were not there to get impacted. So the only thing that got impacted was the telegram system that at that point of time. But these storms have capability to release an energy equivalent to 10 billion megatons of TNT from the sun. So it could be, I would say, that internet apocalypse. How it translates, what happens is something that we need to watch out for. Humans definitely, are not impacted. So this is more in terms of what we're relying on today very much.
So we have the topic now for the next crisis simulation exercise. We do about hundreds of them every year. So I think we now have a new theme for that, and we'll pick up probably more gyan from you one-on-one. So thank you very much, Sanbir. Risks are inevitable. Breaches will happen. Resilience would be the key. Do you agree? And what can be done to mitigate the risks and strengthen the resilience that you talked about?
So apart from the solar apocalypse and internet outage, which is something which we'll have to look at a gray rhino or a black swan and beyond, I guess AI and oceans will be the two key risk drivers for 2024, both from the government perspective as well as what organizations needs to watch out for. I would probably prescribe to 3 steps to thrive amid this complexity. So first one is to build geopolitical considerations into business models and strategies. I think, other panelists have already spoken much about it. But in this era of profound change in the international system, the importance of geopolitics for corporate strategy is at highest level in the generation. I mean, we haven't seen such elevation in the last 100 years. Successfully weaving geopolitical dynamics into corporate strategy will increasingly be a competitive advantage for corporations as well as for governments. Second, increase the resilience of global supply chains. We know that there is a Red Sea issue. We know that the cost of transportation is increasing globally. Many companies' supply chains are exposed and will be exposed to geopolitical developments given this situation. Executives need to determine how they will better position their company's operating model and supply chain strategy to proactively adjust and increase their resilience to geopolitical disruptions. Last but not the least, we need to adapt to sustainability strategies, which are going to be geopolitical realities. We touched a little bit about carbon footprints, increasing ESG regulations, etc., etc. Multipolarity and de-risking are influencing the government approaches to policies, very much seen in COP28, very recently in the United Arab Emirates sessions that we had last year. Corporates as well as governments would try and invest more into ESG in the future. which also means that there is going to be a risk of regulatory impacts should he not adhere. Executives should incorporate new policies and regulations as well as signals for how such policies may evolve in the future into their sustainability strategies. Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much, Sanveer. Rakesh, sir, again, a different question, different theme. Great organizations are built on ethics. So how important do you think ethics and compliance is in the context of our organization? Are these the foundational pillars? Are you noticing any worrying trends and what to do? And all of it in is about 75 seconds, if you can answer.
Thank you for changing tracks and keeping me right into the subject that I love and I'm passionate about, Sam. Three things. Ethics to me is, after having worked for Wipro, Sanjay is there, and after having worked for Tata Group, I can only say it's the backbone. Nothing moves in those organizations unless and until it has been paradigmed on the Tata Code of Conduct, or the Code of Conduct as we call it for other organizations. So it is paramount. The way we look at it is, if it is paramount, then what needs to be done? The theme that goes on to the employees from the peon to the president is avoid a newspaper negative story, which means pass the newspaper test. That's the way it is communicated to them. That's the way the storytelling happens. And that's the way we go back and tell them as to how a managing director of a Tata company, it's an Economic Times newspaper story, and a Fareed Zakaria story in a Ratan Tata interview, which is about we start from the top. We do not blame the processes. We do not blame anything. We start from the top. And that's where the story changes from that compliance is not a document for us. It's a living document for us that we look at it every day, every minute of our existence. So to answer that question, why the Tata Group name is there across the world and is respected, the core theme that runs is it is an ethical organization. So that's the connect between the business and that's the connect between ethics. As what I would say, started seeing it, early shoots of it in Wipro, but finally fine-tuned it with the role that the organization gave it to me as the chief ethics counselor and being the custodian of the Tata Code of Conduct. I would say that both in our personal lives and in our business lives, if we can make it happen, then India is looking, with its vast population and with ethics as the background, to be a superpower. What distinguishes organizations like, or countries like, I don't want to name a few, but Pakistan being the best subject, and us, I would say, if Tata Group stands out as the ethical organization, best ethical organization in the world, so does India stand out today when we are compared with organizations around the world or how we conduct business. So to me, to answer the question once again, the bottom line is ethics is the story that needs to run as the central theme, both in our personal and professional lives. And that's what I have seen does wonders to both the organizations, to both your family, as well as to the nation that you belong to. Sam?
Thank you very much, sir. Ethics is paramount, and we completely agree with you. We are running out of time. So Gaurav and Sai, I'll give you about 60 seconds each for a quick... Gaurav, I think the final theme to you, I had said, veterans and startups. What's the relationship? 45 seconds, please. Yeah.
A course mate called me a couple of months back and asked me, how's life? So I told him, it feels I'm posted at the LOC. So life in a startup is action-packed, has so much to solve. And if I was to compare it to a larger organization, for a Fauji, it would be a bigger organization is a big corporate like a peace posting, but the places that we love is counterinsurgency. So that is startups. So don't hold yourself back. We have a lot of success stories of entrepreneurs, veterans, and veterans doing really, really well in startups. So take that and jump in.
So point taken. I think we'll go to Sai. Any quick closing comments, and then we'll go for Ash. I'll take 2 minutes more, just so that Sai,
Yes,
and
probably wrap up really quickly. I think we've covered a lot here. So for me, really, what I really want to call out is the need for some meaningful investments that are now imperative to kind of address some of the risks that we're looking at. One would be really around the tools and sources that provide organizations with market intelligence on risk, trends, impacting events, remediations. These become crucial to maintain that posture of proactive risk management, addressing training needs and ensuring that at least key people in your organizations are able to demonstrate situational ability to deal some of these out of the ordinary situations also becomes important. The general tendency across all sectors, the general tendency to kind of play catch up needs to go away. So we've all learned from COVID, but as they say, I mean, we are only as good as our last crisis. Last but not the least is to become robustly resilient. Resilient in every sense of the term probably is very important. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you very much. And now go back to everyone, and in that same order, Sanjay, Sanu, Sanbir, Rakesh, Gaurav, Sai, 20 seconds for a soundbite, and then we close.
The fuel security resilience with the triad of talent, intel, and responsible AI.
Sanu?
I would say understanding evolving technologies and related risk would remain key in future.
Sanbir?
Invest in yourself, understand what's happening around, be situationally aware, and prepare for the worst.
Rakesh?
Keep doing it right.
Very well done. Gaurav?
Don't hesitate to join startups. That's the place to be.
Wow, absolutely agree. And Sai?
Yeah, what probably is needed is ethical conduct and collective wisdom of all the expertise we've gained over the decades.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have had a most fascinating panel discussion. Many takeaways. We're running out of time, so I will probably come back at the end and summarize it because I have one more exposure. So thank you, esteemed panelists, Rakesh, Sanjay, Sanu, Sanbir, Sai, and Gaurav for a fascinating discussion. And I think a huge round of applause from us to the wonderful audience, the 300 of you, 300 plus. And wishing all of you once again a happy new year. Looking forward to balance of the session, and back to you, Ash.
Thank you.
First, I would like the panelists for answering some very interesting questions from the participants in the Q&A box. And thank you, esteemed speakers and chair, for such an amazing discussion, which is sure to help anybody looking to mitigate risks in India and businesses operating here. The risks that they can face amid the geopolitical environment with respect to India's neighborhood, climate change, deep fake, as well as adapt to trends such as hybrid operations and the gig economy. Now, for the last 11 years, MitKat has been producing an industry-acknowledged benchmark tool which helps businesses understand and mitigate risks associated with India's complex landscape. Ms. Aparna Gudar, Associate Director of the Predictive Risk Intelligence team, will be unveiling the India Risk Review 2024 next. Ms. Aparna has carved a niche for herself in the field of corporate risk intelligence by keeping a keen eye on the geopolitical developments across Asia Pacific with a specific focus on South Asia. An integral part of MitKat's leadership, she, along with her team of young geographically dispersed intelligence analysts, have been instrumental in making the predictive risk intel vertical a brand to reckon with. After the India Risk Review, we have a very special presentation of MitKat's new proprietary AI-driven product, DataSurfer.ai, which effectively combines technology with human intelligence for risk monitoring and analysis. This will be by Mr. Abhijit Kode. He is a product manager at MitKat Advisory and holds a BE in Mechanical Engineering from University of Pune and a Master's in International Relations from the London School of Economics. In his role at MitKat, Abhijit spearheads the creation of diverse information service products, both technological and non-technological. Aparna and Abhijit, over to you.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya. Thank you for the warm welcome. And greetings, everyone. Wishing you all a very, very happy new year. Thank you so much for joining us today. The symposium has started on a crackling note with a powerful keynote address by our chairman, General Sharma, and a very, very engaging panel discussion on India Risk Outlook 2024, where we've literally discussed everything under the sun. So it's been very interesting and conducted by thought leaders and moderated by our co-founder and MD, Colonel Sam. On this note, it gives me immense pleasure to unveil the India Risk Review 2024. Aishwarya, I would require a quick confirmation if my screen is visible.
Yes, we can see it, Aparna.
And I will be scrolling through the India Risk Review. So in case at any point of time you feel that my screen is not changing, please do not hesitate to interrupt me. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. IRR 2024. So India Risk Review is one of our flagship products, which is in its 12th edition. Okay. I'll just, Aishwarya, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
No, I think I'll have to represent. Just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Just give me 1 minute. All right. Is my screen changing now?
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you. Sorry for the interruption. India Risk Review is one of MitKat's flagship products that is in its 12th edition now. The review starts with a message from our Honorable Chairman and goes on to provide you with a comprehensive overview of key risks that are anticipated to impact India in the year 2024. Whether it is political activity due to upcoming elections or identity-based violence or cybersecurity vulnerability. All these events have been captured in a comprehensive manner. The review also includes India Risk Map 2024, a very, very extensive effort wherein our team of analysts have analyzed each of the constituent districts of India individually across multiple risk categories such as extremism, natural hazards, health and diseases, and infrastructure to come up with a consolidated risk map. The report is extremely easy to read with graphical representation of important stats and key findings highlighted in the form of infographics. In-depth research has been conducted to provide you with the strategic outlook of India and its global positioning. The India Risk Review is an effort to understand and represent key risks and events across the country. In order to provide projections and forecasts for the coming year, notable key risk events from 2023, including the various state elections, the communal violence in Noor, the Kaveri-related disruptions in Karnataka, Maratha protests across Maharashtra, flooding in Delhi, Chennai, Sikkim, and other states, threats and incidents of extremism in parts of the country are all analyzed and covered in this year's iteration of IRR. All relevant topics have been covered in a succinct manner with focus on likely implications in the near future. The IRR 2024 is available for download and the link will be available now in the chat box. You can use the link to get your copy. The soft copy has a navigation panel on the left, which makes it very user-friendly and provides you with an immersive reading experience. In case you require the hard copies of India Risk Review 2024 and the India Risk Map 2024, please reach out to my colleague, Sagar Bhanushali. His contact details will be available in the chat box now. With this, I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Abhijit Kode, who is a product developer, and he will showcase Data Surfer, a state-of-the-art critical event monitoring and predictive analysis tool that we are all immensely proud of. Thank you so much for your participation and patient listening. And I would like to hand it over to Abhijit now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aparna. I hope I am audible. Good morning, everyone, and very happy New Year. Thank you, Aparna, again for covering the whole India risk review, all the risks pertaining to businesses, impacting all the businesses in India. And thank you so much for Sam sir and all the panelists to give the insights on all the risks, which are the insights about how they are impacting the today's business and all. So it's always a privilege to listen to these risk business problems, so that engineer in me can get triggered, and I want to always find a solution for what we can do more to solve these issues. So I'll not go in detail about what are the risks which are impacting businesses. You guys are obviously the thought leaders and experts, and obviously know better than me. So I'll just dwell a couple of minutes on my product journey, how it started, and where we have reached. So past couple of years after interacting with all the industry intel leaders, so one thing is clear to me is now business leaders are more and more relying on security leaders and intel leaders to navigate through this complex risk environment. Second, they want to business leaders to preemptively predict the challenges and give the insights to navigate or insights beyond the immediate horizons. So the second thing that came in our discussion was like, even though the security function is, of course, it is critically important, it is mainly seen as a cost center rather than the operational hub. Now that brings to a question that how we can make this shift, and it should be treated as an operational function rather than just a cost center. So the answer is fairly simple, that the business and intel leaders, like security leaders, needs to take the informed decisions which will not minimize the cost, but it will impact the profits positively as well. So what can we do, or as a product manager, what can I do for to help this intel and security leaders to make this informed decisions, is what I identified few of the areas. So first area that I identified is, of course, they need a critical event monitoring so that they can stay abreast of current, developing and forthcoming situations, so that they don't miss out on something. Second is, of course, the risk intelligence. Once they know about the event, they want to know how that event is going to impact their business. They need an advice to mitigate and start preparing for BCP. Third, we have amazing, so we have technology, so we now have the amazing risk data. How we can use that risk data to to do the comprehensive analysis and to do the trend analysis, so that more and more we can do the go towards the predictive analysis part. And fourth, of course, when in emergency, nothing helps than if you have the access to expertise. So whether we can provide them this access to expertise. So these are the four key areas where we actually discussed upon, and we develop our product based on around these four main criteria. So addressing these four needs, we present to you the Data Surfer, that is MitKat's proprietary AI-driven critical monitoring tool, integrating human expertise to provide you the risk intelligence. So now in this product, we are leveraging the power of generative AI. It scrapes through over 20,000 sources and multiple data points to identify and collect the risk events. Human analysts then tailor the alerts and advisories, empowering security teams to comprehend global, regional, and local incidents so that they can help to make the informed decisions.
And as Abhijit mentioned, if you have any queries related to India Risk Review or Data Surfer, we would be very happy to hear from you via our LinkedIn page or website or social media handles. Now, moving on. We have our second panel discussion for the day on geopolitical, socio-economic, environmental, and travel, an insider and fraud risk and duty of care, moderated by Lieutenant Colonel Sushil Pradhan, who is the Executive Director and COO at MitKat Advisory. Colonel Pradhan is a seasoned professional with over 32 years of experience in Myanmar, Iraq, Bangladesh, China, Japan, Sri Lanka, and difficult geographies of India. He's a prolific speaker not only in India, but also at London, Dubai, New York, Singapore, Beijing, Colombo, and Dhaka. Colonel Pradhan is published in industry and strategic journals and a security defense expert on national television. He is much in demand for conducting crisis simulation exercises for corporate management teams. He has an MBA and MSc in defense and strategic studies, and MPhil in national security studies, and he has spent 22 years in the military. He was decorated for gallantry in counter-terrorist operations, trained in commando operations, counterinsurgency, and jungle warfare, and has served extensively in the Himalaya high altitudes. He was also a UN peacekeeper in Sierra Leone in West Africa and has been awarded the UN medal. He trained in the German army. Sir, it is a delight to have the opportunity to see you moderate with our venerated panel. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the very generous introduction, Aishwarya. Am I absolutely audible and visible, everyone? If somebody can just give me, yeah, great. So thank you so much, and thanks to all the esteemed panelists who've taken out their time to join us for this panel discussion. We have a very variegated theme, which is talking about geopolitical, socioeconomic, environmental, travel, insider risk, fraud risks, and duty of care. And we following on the footsteps of the first panel, which again had huge number of experts, and they gave us a broad overview. So probably what we will take this opportunity to do is to dive a little deeper into some of those aspects, and mostly as relevant to India. So before I go on to the panel discussion, I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists to you in no particular order. So if once I've introduced you, gentlemen, please wave out or say hello to the audience so that we know that you're okay for sound. So first, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Colonel V.S. Chandrawat, Sena Medal, also CPP, and he's the President Security for the Adani Group. Dynamic leader with over 20 years with the Indian Special Forces, and he also commanded the Elite 52 Special Action Group, the MitKat Commandos, which was the only counter hijack terror task force of India. He's got extensive operational experience in intense counter-terrorism environment in J&K and in northeast parts of India. He was ADC, or the personal staff officer to the Chief of the Indian Army. He was also the instructor at a premier military academy and advisor and instructor at the Indian military training team for the Royal Government of Bhutan. He was a member of the Inter-Ministerial Crisis Management Organization at the national level, and he's been with various industry groups like Reliance Infrastructure, GSK, DLF, and he was also the head of security at the Mumbai International Airport. So very privileged to have you with us on this panel, sir. If you could just say hello or wave out.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, sir. We have Dhaval with us. Dhaval Kapasi is the co-founder of Mreach, and he's a technology evangelist. He's got 22 plus years of experience in providing leadership and guidance for building and delivering technology solutions. Various industries like risk management, e-learning, banking and finance, e-governance, and social media. On behalf of Mreach, he's also received the BCI award for the best product service of the year in the recent past. Dhaval regularly speaks at various events and forums related to business continuity and technology, and he's got various published insights on case studies, ROI, and impact of technology on building organizational resiliency. So welcome to the panel, Dhaval.
Thank you so much, Sushil, for this wonderful introduction. Thank you.
We also have Mukesh Vedprakash. He's the country security head of State Street for the last 9 years, and he's been in very similar roles in resilience, security, intelligence since 2005 with various organizations like Flipkart, Barclays Capital, ICICI Bank, Canara Bank. And of course, prior to his corporate exposure, he was with the Indian Army. He was with the 26th Punjab Regiment for 6.5 years, and he participated in various operations as part of his unit in Op Vijay and Op Parakram. Hi, Mukesh, and welcome to the panel. Mukesh, you're on mute, so if you could just unmute and we do a sound check that way.
Am I audible now?
Yes, thank you so much, and great to have you here. We have Suraj Shankpal with us. He's the Senior Vice President of Corporate Security for India and Philippines for Wells Fargo. Suraj has more than 19 plus years of diverse equipment experience before Wells Fargo. He's worked with PwC, with UBS, and he was also with Goldman Sachs and the Oberoi Group of Hotels at Trident as the Assistant Chief Security Officer. He was an Indian Army veteran, served as a captain in an infantry unit in counterinsurgency operations in northeast parts of India. Suraj is currently the secretary of the OSAC Mumbai Council. He's also the vice chairman of the Oil and Gas Security of FSAI, and he was past secretary of ACIS Mumbai chapter and the past vice chairman of the FSAI. He's been awarded the 2016 Dangrove APAC Regional Award, which recognizes emerging youth security professionals in the APAC region. And he's also been a part of the ACIS conferences and at various places, including at Shanghai in China. So Suraj, welcome to the show, welcome to the event, and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Pleasure being here.
And we have with us Colonel Shekhar Attri, Sena Medal, who's head of India Security Services for Pratt and Whitney. Again, a decorated Special Forces veteran with over 22 years of experience. His role involves security risk assessments, implementation of security at the Indian and regional level. He's played a pivotal role in disaster management and crisis response on multiple occasions. He's also been felicitated by the Chief Minister of Puducherry and the government of Karnataka for his role. He was awarded the Man of Excellence Award 2023 by the Indian Achievers Forum. And he's very passionate about skydiving, gardening, and motorcycle touring. So welcome, Shekhar, to the forum.
Thanks a lot, Sushil, sir. Happy to be here.
Last but not the least, we have the only non-Indian on the panel here to talk about India. So Ian, welcome to the event. He's the Regional Security Manager of Europe, Middle East, and Africa for Black & Veatch. A veteran of the South African Army and the British Army both. Ian has served across the world in most of its trouble spots, whether it was Iraq, whether it was Afghanistan, both during his military career and thereafter in his corporate role. He was one of the few expats who has been in India, stayed in India, worked in India in a security leadership role for Black & Veatch. He was India security head for Black & Veatch in India, and hence he's on this forum. Currently, Ian is based in the UK, and Ian, thanks for waking up so early to join us for this event. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Good morning. Some lovely familiar faces. Hello.
Yes, absolutely. So having exceeded my brief time, which I was scheduled to take the introductions, but then we have such heavyweight professionals that I had to spend time introducing them to the audience. Moving on to some of the questions. So what we'll do is have a round of opening questions. Given time, we'll go down to the second round of questions, and then we'll take some audience questions if there are, and close with your last two words of wisdom as the closing quote. So I'd like to open the discussion with Colonel Chandrawat. So you've been looking after a very critical role, and given India's location in the South Asian region, especially with India growing in the region, what are the geopolitical risks to corporates in India? And could you give us some examples of such manifestations, how they could affect corporates going forward, sir?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving me the honor. Quickly, today I realized that if you don't understand geopolitics, you really can't do business. So for anybody to say that it's a government's job to understand geopolitics, those days are gone. So for corporate of the size of, we are what like Adani Group is, it's very critical to understand geopolitics, especially when you in your own neighborhood. Unfortunately, we are in a geographical location which is pretty volatile, and it's like living in an apartment where your next door neighbor is a bully, other neighbor is a thief, and you have to live with him, and you really cannot change your house. So we have neighbors who are troublesome. We also have some friendly neighbors, and we have recent examples of Maldives, which has really shot itself in a foot without any reason, and hunting with the hounds and running with the hare. So this, so if I have, as a company, I have to invest in Maldives, I'll think twice. If I am also depending on, if I'm running a shipping business, and if there's kidnapping happening in the around the Red Sea, and in the Arabian Sea, or it's my ships are being attacked, obviously I'll be concerned, and I'll see what best I can do. So it does impact corporates in a very significant way, and the changing dynamics of geopolitics within the country. So with the Sri Lankan economic crisis, which we recently had, India had to step in and bail them out. How long that goodwill will remain, it's time for us to see. So like we also have investments in Sri Lanka even today, and if I have to go further and invest more, then I need to be sure that where am I really investing my money into. We have partnership with Bangladesh. So we just had a recent election where she has won the 5th term. How it's going to help the country as a whole and business is also to be seen, because we are also impacted directly. In case of a small thing like switches for in IT, those are impacted because of these disruptions which has happened due to frictions within the nation. We have active borders with Pakistan and China. It's like a tinder box. Somebody light a match and it can go up. Take the small case of a murder of a tailor in Udaipur. All the hotels were chock-a-block, and this next day all bookings were cancelled. One murder. So it does affect corporates in a big way. We are dependent on oil supplies from external countries, so therefore stability in this region is very important for us. Though with all the difficulties, the world is looking at us in a big way. We have had high-profile visits of the global CEOs recently, who are keen to invest in the country despite the challenges, and knowing that we are the alternate to China going forward. So with that in mind, I think all the corporates in the country have a great future ahead. But despite that, there are certain instances of geopolitics which are beyond your reach. We can only maneuver around them and do our best for ourselves. We are actually not the government. I mean, we have limited bandwidth in that. So there, I'll stop here, and subsequently we'll come back again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that was really valid, and I really like your opening statement where your advice and statement to all security and risk leadership is that if you can't understand geopolitics, you can't do business. I think there is no better truism today than that, especially for India with our growing role across the global stage. From the external environment, we'll move towards the internal security environment in India. And coming to you, Mukesh, just wanted to pick up from here that India is a multicultural and a diverse country. Given its economic inequalities, religious fault lines, and socioeconomic issues, how do you see socioeconomic risks unfolding in the coming year? And if you could give us some examples of issues which were blown up beyond what they had been anticipated to do so.
Absolutely. So thanks for this opportunity. Well, India historically has been a diverse nation. So we've had multiculturalism in this nation ever since that we know the history of it. So there's not much which has changed. Well, we have our 10% of wealth being owned by, rather 10% of Indians do own about 77% of the wealth. And on the other hand, we have examples of DLF selling out 1,000 properties worth 7,000 plus crores within 3 days. So we will continue to be that way, but with these challenges, we will continue to see what we have seen in last couple of years and in 2024 also. Yes, the prime examples recently have been CAA protests, followed by farm protests, and followed by recently our transport strike, which kind of impacted quite a few areas, which also brought the government to withdraw these one after another. So we will, I think, continue to see that. But 2024 is going to be a very interesting year with a lot of socio-political events lined up. One being the Ram Mandir coming up on 22nd, going to be a major event with a lot of happiness amongst one section of the country, and some not so happy with it too. There are bound to be some, I would say, noise around it. Internationally, we are looked at for this event, followed by a major Lok Sabha elections that's also coming up. Obviously, we'll continue to see Maharashtra employment or reservation issues. Old pension scheme can again bring up its head since elections are coming up. Yeah, that's what I foresee 2024 to be for us. But then what I believe is we need to continue to look at all these aspects from a point of view of security professionals and work towards mitigating these risks before they start hitting us and our business.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mukesh. In fact, very rightly pointed out. And surprisingly, one of the things internally which took everyone by surprise was what happened in Manipur, I don't think too many people had their pulse on what's happening, and hopefully we don't see such nasty surprises in the coming year, because there are so many things at stake and so many things go out of kilter when something like this happens. But thanks, and we'll probably come back to some more discussion given some more time. Moving from the external and internal environment, we want to talk about something which is beyond human control. And Suraj, I'd like to check with you what your thoughts are on the current extreme weather phenomena, which are sometimes triggered by man-made causes and have become more frequent, more common, sometimes more predictable, sometimes more unpredictable. And how are corporate risk and crisis managers going to plan and handle these in the coming year? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir. In my view, extreme weather crises are unpredictable, but we shouldn't be very surprised, especially given, due to climate change. We are seeing this disruption all across the globe, even in countries or cities which has never seen or faced such crises in the past. Uh, like I said, it's unpredictable, but there are ways and means where we are able to now predict these crises, including heavy rainfalls, including earthquakes. Uh, all organizations need to embrace crisis management and build resiliency to prevent and mitigate these crises proactively. As of now, we are a little bit proactive, but mainly we are reactive. Most organizations react when such kind of crises are faced by us, either it is at a city level or at a state level or even at a country level. To explain this, I would like to take the example of the city of Mumbai. Obviously, it's a battle-hardened city with numerous floods, especially during the peak monsoon season. So when we look at how do we manage crisis, and what are our roles and responsibilities as risk managers. So in process terms, crisis management is best represented into a three-phased pie chart or a pie diagram, where the first phase is mainly pre-crisis planning and preparation. The second phase is obviously crisis response and crisis communication, and the third is post-crisis recovery. I will talk about a little bit about pre-crisis planning and preparation, the question that you asked me. Now, in this phase, the organization need to create frameworks for managing such crises. Weather events, we cannot limit ourselves to only rains or floods or earthquake, but we'll have to look at weather events across the horizon, some which obviously the area is known for, or there is a high likelihood of such crisis happening. But at the same time, given that we are building these frameworks, build frameworks for each of these crises depending upon the likelihood. In this phase, organization needs to actually build capabilities to manage these crises. I think it's not only on the paper, but also on ground. You need to have a mechanism and capabilities in place to ensure that you are able to effectively manage these crises. In this phase, the most important aspect is basically risk assessment, identification and then mitigation of these risks. One step back, and I'll talk about what we used to do earlier and what we are doing now. So as security professionals, our core responsibility is people safety, asset protection, and obviously we need to ensure there is no or limited disruption to business operations. Few years back, more or less this was limited to our work environment or workplace environment or within our campuses. But with the introduction of duty of care, the responsibilities, and more importantly, the expectations from our organization, including security professionals, have increased manifold, which means as security professionals and risk and crisis managers, we are required to conduct end-to-end risk assessment over and above our area of operations. So when we talk about risk assessment, the first risk assessment which we do, and I'll again take the example of the city of Mumbai, is the area of operation, the floor or the building, whether it is multi-tenanted or a tenanted building or a campus. Say, for example, we take example of we are based out of one BKC. So the risk assessment of that building is carried out. That is the area of operations. Then we move on to the next stage, which is the area of influence or the area nearby us, our neighborhood. say it is 2 or 3 kilometers. We call it from this example perspective, the entire BKC is our area of interest, area of influence. The next area is area of interest, where we say it's a larger area. In this example, we say it's the complete Bandra east side of the city, which actually impacts us. Now, with the introduction of duty of care, this area of interest actually has expanded. We are also required to understand where our employees are staying, which all localities are they in, because in the end, our employees are our biggest assets. And in such extreme weather crisis, there is an expectation and a requirement for organization to support these employees, either provide them with the basic necessities, or if not, evacuate them. Now, I'm not saying that we have to step into the government space. I don't think we have the capabilities. But at the same time, in such large, massive crises, the government will obviously prioritize evacuation depending upon the severity of the area, depending upon which area they are able to get in. So as organizations, we should build a capability to at least provide certain necessity to our employees during these crises, or to evacuate them. Now, I think the first step in managing this crisis is to have that plan. Like I said, the area of interest has increased, so it is important for organization to map their employees in the length of breadth of the city that they operate in, understand where these employees actually stay. We need to obviously have the details like their home addresses, their mobile numbers, their emergency contact numbers. And again, if you are evacuating employees, you will not evacuate only the employees, you will obviously evacuate their dependent families. So, probably their wives or children's or parents. So it is very important for organization to also understand what are the number of family members that are dependent on them, staying with them, and if there is a requirement of any special care. You cannot get into a home to evacuate your employee, and then you realize that their probably elderly mother is bedridden, and you need a stretcher, or you need a larger vehicle for evacuating her. So we have to proactively have these details into our directory.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, critically, organizations may not be able to respond to everyone. We may have 100 employees, we may also have 10,000 employees. It is humanly impossible for a small security team to manage this. So what we do is, depending upon the number of employees in each vicinity, or say we create a neighborhood hub where 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 employees which stay close by are all mapped together, saying that this is neighborhood group 1. You guys are part of this neighborhood group 1. This neighborhood group 1, this is the leader, and this is the backup, and this is the guy. Create a communication plan among themselves. So this is one where we create the framework for our people. Then in that vicinity or that neighborhood, we have to create, I'll just take a couple of minutes more. Okay. In this neighborhood, we have to create, structure in place. Say, for example, okay, which is the hotel that we will evacuate to if, there is flooding and employees are not able to stay at their homes. That hotel should obviously be on higher grounds. We should obviously have a connection with that hotel, wherein that hotel will provide us with rooms if available. If not, they will provide or open up their ballroom, or open up their meeting rooms for our employees to come in. That needs to be clearly told and informed to the employees. If in case you are unable to stay inside your houses, this is the place that you will all congregate and come. The team leader should obviously know the hotel point of contact, and then these guys are evacuated from there. What happens is the next step. If in case the severity of the flooding increases, it is impacting even the hotel, and it is worst case scenario. So we need to have a overarching transportation plan where we start evacuating all our people from these nodal points and get them outside the area of impact, or outside the city, depending upon the level of flooding. Now, what is important in all this is the detail of planning that we need to do as crisis managers. We need to ensure appropriate communication plan. not limiting to mobile data, landline, radio sets. We need to ensure appropriate logistics, hotel rooms, food, water, first aid, clothing, bedding, etc. Transportation, cars with, say, higher ground clearances, 4x4 drive, buses, drivers, fuels, and this all needs to be readily available at our disposal before the crisis. As in, if you are already in the crisis, these are resources which may not be available to you unless you already have them in place. Now, there are various ways to doing it. We probably talk about it at the later stage. So this is the building of the capabilities.
Absolutely.
2 more minutes. Very importantly, we need to train the teams. Now let's look at neighborhood A. We need to train the leader. We need to train the number 2. They will need to understand the response mechanism. How will they respond? What are the triggers to which they would respond? Many a time, especially at these extreme weather conditions, the 2 things that go away, which is your backbone of the plan, is the mobile networks go. That is the backbone of every plan that we have. And then the power utilities is cut. If there is like a flooding, power utility is gone. Now, both of these things are the backbone of your plan. The minute crisis hit, the plan is thrown out of the window because you can't connect with these employees. So building muscle memory to say, okay, right now it is heavy rainfall. There is no flooding. Stay in your houses. Ensure that you have enough stock to withstand 3 or 4 days in your house. Battery backup for in case power utility is down. Ensure you have a evacuation kit ready. That's part number 1. Part number 2, okay, flooding has started to happen. Before the road becomes inaccessible, move to the hotel, move to the higher ground, move to this nodal point which has been discussed. Get into these. If in case it further deteriorates, as per the transportation plan, somebody will reach out to you. Hopefully the radio set works. We connect them, put them in the buses, get them outside. Now, this is a plan that needs to be not only build end to end. You can't have one minor mistake here or there or one gap. The plan will fail. You have to train them, rehearse. This simulation needs to be done at a regular basis. And then when crisis hit, you will be probably better prepared than anyone else. And I think that is a responsibility of a good security professional as part of duty of care towards their employees.
Thanks, Suraj, for
Thank you, sir.
explaining it so well, and takes me back to my military days where we talked about area of responsibility, area of influence, and area of interest, and the boundaries between these are now merging with especially with the hybrid environment and all of that. So coming to Ian, so Ian, you've been living and traveling in India, and you have first-hand experience of managing your expats. For them, India always remains a slightly risk-prone experience, although sometimes very extremely pleasant, but there are some things which we need to take care of because of the unfamiliar environment. And how do you think corporates in India have been extending their duty of care responsibility to look after such expat employees, their families, and even casual visitors?
Thank you very much, Colonel Sushil, and what a beautiful dovetail into the duty of care for my previous speaker. Thank you, Siraj. Duty of care is a very important aspect to attend to, and I think never has there been an opportunity for us, the security practitioners, to make our relevance in corporations known, and also to be part of that important consideration for planning and operations. So I like to look at a couple of things. The first thing is no 2 travelers are the same. You'll never have one corporate traveler with the same needs, desires, aspirations, areas that they want to travel to, and even medical background as the next. Some corporate travelers travel with their families. Some corporate travelers are maybe a bit more vulnerable than others. So, having said that, everybody is different. I like to incorporate a bit of a general brief. So when somebody's going to a certain area, I really enjoy having a face-to-face communication with them and going through a sounds very old-fashioned, but going through a PowerPoint presentation, because then what that does is it takes me through a very systematic, point by point. This is what we've covered. So what it also does is in 6 months' time or 6 years' time, if there is an incident and we are ever called to account for that in a court of law, we can always say this is what we briefed our travelers to do or to avoid. So I'm not too sure if you're familiar with that the acronym CYA, cover your derriere. But that's what it does for the corporation and for yourself. And you work for the corporation, so I think there's a lot of value to be taken in attending to something like that. What it also does is it gives you an opportunity to bring up specific matters. Take Saudi Arabia, for example. Here is a country whose sovereignty we recognize, and they have some quirky things that are not as inclusive to our cultures. That if you were to send somebody who practices certain things, could be illegal in that country. But by briefing your potential traveler, what you're doing is you're now mitigating the risk. You're handing the decision making to them and saying, knowing these laws exist, do you now want to knowingly travel to that country? And by doing so, you're also mitigating your risk of singling out somebody who could be of a certain practice. Other simple things like briefing people against geopolitical, very, very, very important for them to understand where they're going. Everywhere from the north of India, where you've got very, very, very challenging weather conditions, to the south of India, where we had a project in Chennai, where there were some pretty challenging political and social issues that we had to pay very, very, very close attention to. Otherwise, we would have been tripped up quite substantially. To also briefing about things like food. Food is very important. I love the food in India, but you can find yourself getting very, very, very unstuck if you don't have a porcelain chariot in close proximity, if you're choosing to dine at certain places, and that for certain travelers is a real important thing to attend to. And then something as simple as driving. We do not promote self-driving. India has a rather unique style of driving that I'm not saying that our expats cannot drive, but driving in India is severely challenging for them. For example, the use of the horn in many Western countries is an offensive weapon. You know, you beep somebody with your horn, and you're going to get into a fist fight, and in certain countries you might get into a gunfight. Whereas in India, it is it's radar. You know, beep beep beep. I'm coming. I'm either coming left of you, coming right of you, coming over you, coming under you, but I'm coming, and it mustn't be taken as an offense. In summary, this is our time to shine. This is our time to get amongst our C-suite and brief them appropriately. This is our time to get amongst the business development team and give them the accurate information with costings that they can now start to forge forward in some very challenging environments or some very easy environments. But this is where your relevance is going to be measured, and where you will start to get listened to.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Colonel.
Absolutely, Ian. Thank you. Very well brought out and lovely examples. And I like that point about the horn being used as a radar in India rather than something to get people out of the way. Actually, I wanted to come to Shekhar next, but there were 2-3 things which Suraj said, and then we picked up what Ian mentioned about travel risks. So I'll just come to Dhaval first. And Dhaval, with the growing frequency and severity of natural disasters, climate change, travel risks increasing, how can emergency notifications systems help businesses in effective crisis management and rapid response? This is something which Suraj also talked about, but if you could give us some of the technical perspective to that, and then we'll move on to Shekhar.
Sure. So, Sushil, thank you so much. First of all, for inviting me to share my views on this panel. And it is really such an honor to be talking alongside such an esteemed panelist. Yeah, certainly I'm happy to share my views on this. So, in the face of escalating natural disasters, driven by climate change and severe weathers, the emergency notification systems like ours, have become very crucial, for businesses to ensure effective crisis management and rapid response. The platforms like ours actually serve as a lifeline, to our customers, providing them with like real-time alerts and actionable information, right? Suresh touched upon, this pie chart, talking about, planning, things that you do during the incident and also, post the incident, how do you do that? So, let me highlight, a couple of significant ways in which the emergency notification, our platform helps our customers, right? So one of the things is, as Suraj had rightly identified, communication is very important during this time. So our platform facilitates immediate communication. So, whenever there is a natural disaster, time is of the essence, right? And our platform actually enables our customers to quickly disseminate information, critical information like evacuation plans, safety procedures, office statuses, whether the office is open, closed. And this kind of rapid communication is actually very essential, for ensuring the safety of the employees and coordinating the response efforts. Second thing, we talked about, people traveling, and we are all global organizations. We're not generally working from one place only. And we also talked about challenges now, where people are working from home, right? So, what our platform is doing is, supports targeted messaging. So basically, it uses, advanced algorithms and logic to send location-specific alerts, right? We also saw that in your data server, demo right now. How location-specific, alerts and impact analyzing is very important, right? So ensuring that the employees in the affected areas receive relevant information is very important. And this precision is, it's not only to enhance the effectiveness of communication, but it also prevents unnecessary panic, in the regions that are not really affected. Furthermore, what we support is really the continuity of operations, by keeping the employees informed and connected. Businesses can actually minimize the downtime and initiate the recovery process more swiftly, right? And this is really vital for the operational stability and, at times mitigating any potential financial losses as well, right? Let's take an example of, a recent, earthquake in Japan. I know, Sushil, you mentioned we stick to India, but I'll give an example of earthquake in Japan because it can very well happen in India as well. India is not, away from that kind of a risk. So this earthquake, led to significant number of casualties, injuries, and widespread displacements, right? And our system played a very crucial role for our customers in coordinating the recovery efforts, and disseminating information about aids, reliefs, identifying colleagues who are safe, who needed help, or who had some kind of an emergency, and keeping the colleagues informed about ongoing risk and safety measures. So this incident, among many others, demonstrates the importance of having the robust, emergency notification systems, to manage crisis effectively. So in conclusion, as we face more frequent and severe natural disasters, the role of the emergency notification systems in safeguarding the employee safety and also ensuring the business resilience, cannot be overstated. I would go ahead and say that, such systems are no longer a luxury, but a necessity for any forward-thinking organization.
Thank you. Thanks, Dhaval. Thank you so much, and absolutely valid points. Shekhar, sorry. So Colonel Chandrawat mentioned initially, that some examples of what happened in Sri Lanka, what happened in Bangladesh, what happened in Maldives. Now, as people like you who are handling operations for your security operations in India, but your role of or your zone of exposure, your zone of responsibility is increasing to countries in our neighborhood. As a risk manager or a security manager based in India, responsible for a broader geographical region, how do you cope with these risks, and what are de-risking strategies, and how do you work in these places?
Well, sir, I'm representing a US-based business, that is one. And secondly, we don't have any permanent presence in the countries you mentioned, but we definitely have travelers moving to Dhaka, Chittagong, Colombo, even Rawalpindi and Lahore. So the entire region has got travelers either on a holiday or on a business travel. And exposure to the local political considerations, which are very volatile. And being a US-based business, certain political events might target the business representatives in the country. So those are my risks which I watch out for. And how do you de-risk them? If I were to come to that, Rome was not built in a day. So if a traveler is traveling today, I can't start looking for the information today. I have to have certain background to it. So local regional organizations which support security professionals like OSAC, ACSG, MitKat is a very big go-to for me to get up on the regional updates. And the local Ministry of External Affairs advisories, plus the other consulates and diplomatic missions in the countries, whatever advisories they have, that also needs to be perused regularly. Secondly, we have got a very dynamic travel security map, which is updated based on the local security risks. So it is green, orange, and red, and it is interfaced with our travel partner. So whenever somebody wants to visit a particular orange or a red zone, he necessarily has to have been vetted by us, the business plan as such, the necessity to go to that place, one. And secondly, as to what the actual task on ground will be and where will be the accommodations, transportation, what are the facilities. So getting into the nuts and bolts will be done by the security. Post vetting only the traveler can visit the country. Secondly, we interface one-to-one with the traveler itself. And like Ian said, CYA, we give a personal briefing to the traveler as to what the risks are existing, where he should be going, how's the nightlife like, and how's the day life like, and what should be avoided and what should be followed. And certain emergency response, I'm glad that Dhaval brought it up. We are subscribing to international SOS alerts as well as Everbridge and multiple other platforms to regularly monitor the travelers where they are. Are they in a risk zone? Is there any risk event happening there? Do they need to move out? In case it comes finally to the evacuation, then we also have local security providers. We got standing contracts with them. So to provide with security drivers, vehicles, or a safe house. So that's also catered for. And once the person is traveling to the region, the security providers are alerted to the presence of the traveler. So just in case there is a requirement, they need to be prepared for that. So that's how broad brush we cover the travelers in the regions.
Very well, succinctly covered, and yet very comprehensively covered, Shekhar. Thank you so much. Chandrawat sir, you know what Shekhar was mentioning about neighboring countries, and as we are aware, Adani Group is spreading its wings from India to the rest of the globe. You have to cover so much of the world today as part of your business interests. How do you support these regions? Every day we hear something new in the news that, oh, acquisition or merger or operation started in so and so country by Adani Group. How do you manage all of this? And we'd like to really just learn a bit from your experience on that.
So quickly, one of my concern in the security domain in India, especially in the South Asian region, is that the security managers are they claim to be the professionals of the master of their craft, but are they really the master of their craft? Do they have a formal degree in security, or they just come from military background and say that I know security? So time has come that you develop specialized skills, and you probably can't be the master of all. You can be jack of all and maybe master of some. But situational awareness is critical for a person like me. I need to understand, and I should be absolutely updated that what's happening today in, let's say, Japan, or what's happening in Vietnam. And If I have that and that situational awareness will come with, getting intelligence in a database, constantly updating, understanding the geopolitics in its totality. We now have an in-house geopolitical assessment team. MitKat is helping in some way. We have MitKat people on board, our GSOC, which is a global command center. We also, have partnership with the local agencies. Sometimes I really cannot go into, let's say, a country which doesn't speak my language and start operating. So I need to have local partnership. I need to also understand how the local governments work and what are the dynamics are, and have my emergency response mechanism in place just in case something goes wrong. How can I rescue my people if they are there? It's like, for example, recently in Israel, when this attack happened, a couple of our people were working in Tel Aviv, and now it became absolutely a bombshell kind of a place there, and how it was a kind of challenge to get those guys out in time. And obviously, be aware of what challenges are coming. I think you should be forewarned, and you should not be caught by surprise and say that I didn't know this. In the army, we say that ignorance of orders is no excuse. Like in my case also, I can't say I didn't know. You got to be aware what is your responsibility as a corporate security head. You are the chief risk advisor to your board. You got to be situationally aware and be the master of your craft. And for that, you'll have to invest time, a lot of time of your personal time, and be in touch with your colleagues who are on this panel. All of you have spoken such great sense, and if I collate all of what you had said, is basically boils down to one thing: common sense approach to taking a problem on, rather than and your own experience will or after a time you'll develop that situational awareness and the sixth sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that. And in the interest of time, I would defer the second round of questions. But just a quick one to Ian, half a minute question. Ian, there are some strange things that happen when a country grows in its stature. So India had the professional arrogance to say ban TikTok. And similarly, there may be things in the future where India exercises its strength and says, okay, we do not agree with so-and-so government's policy. How do you see such things? Because you've been seeing it across the globe. How do you see such policy decisions affecting business? And what would be your one line takeaway to everyone for this? You're on mute, Ian. You're on mute. Sorry. Ian, we can't hear you. So anyways, what we'll do is, no, you're not audible. Can I just request you to put down a few lines in the chat box so that everyone gets your answer as a takeaway? Must be some issue with the audio. But I want to sort of close out the panel with a quick closing quote by all the professionals who are on this panel. And just a one-liner or a half-liner is great. So starting with you, sir, Chandrawat sir, once again, if you have a passing or
beyond, I would just say be on top of things and don't get caught unawares.
Absolutely. That's, I think, the basic of a risk professional. Shekhar, what about you? What do you feel? Your closing quote?
I think awareness is the key for any security leader to be able to handle any kind of situation going forward.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Suraj, what about you? What do you suggest?
Well, in line with both gentlemen, I will say, don't let your leadership be surprised. Situational awareness, as rightly brought out, has a very important role to play. Common sense, which is not very common, needs to be followed. I think one of the key aspects is, as risk managers, we have to imagine risk in all forms,
right,
and then lay down depending upon the likelihood and have a plan for each risk. Just don't maintain a risk register and put it on a chart. Have a plan for it. It may not be complete, but have a plan for it so that you have a takeoff when things hit the fan.
Mukesh, what about you?
I would agree with what all has already been said, and would add that we need to project all these issues rightly at the right time and to the right forums in a proper manner also. That's very important, because otherwise people take a very negative view of what is happening.
I think that was what Ian was also trying to say, that build your relevance by informing your leadership that these are the risks that you're going to, knowingly or unknowingly. Dhaval, your closing quote, please.
Yeah, so I think it is very important for organizations to be innovative and thinking out of the box. and not just throw out solutions, but only solve things that are real problems. Like, for example, Suraj had highlighted some problems like, what happens when people are not able to connect. So, like introduction of communications through WhatsApp, like we are doing, or, having Indian English accents, to serve such a huge population with that kind of a language barrier is very, very important.
Be innovative. Great. Ian, if we can hear you now, your closing quote.
I think select your censorship.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything worse than telling people you can't learn something. So the banning of TikTok, where does it rest on that scale of is it informative or is it a nefarious way of somebody getting into your organization and causing trouble?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, panelists, for doing so well, for talking about so many things and compressing your thoughts in such a short time. And also thanks to those who gave us that vote of confidence in MitKat that your partnership with us is benefiting you. So I really love that part. Thanks for all of you to taking out your time, and look forward to many more such interactions in the future as well. Thank you and have a great day ahead, everyone.
Thank you, Sushil. Thank you, everyone. Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dhanabad.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Colonel Pradhan and panelists, for this discussion on what are extremely relevant topics like extreme weather disruptions and natural disasters, along with duty of care for corporate travelers, and for sharing knowledge on crisis management in such situations. Very rightly mentioned during the session was the need for situational awareness. And all this is extremely relevant, not just in India, but globally. And the audience is sure to benefit immensely from the
Do
discussion.
you have any audience questions, Aishwarya, specific to any of these panelists?
There are questions in the Q&A box. So perhaps if the panelists can take out some time and type the answers.
No, we have about 2-3 minutes for this panel. So can we just take one question if there is something that you can highlight?
Sure. There is one question which is for Suraj, and it says, how do we evacuate employees in situations where vehicles can't reach and needs rescue operations through boats? Government authorities may not respond to an organization's request to rescue their internal employees.
Okay.
No, absolutely. I think, yeah, very valid point. And I think I'm sure the question has come from somebody who's based in Chennai, because Chennai faced is a issue very, very recently. I'll not name the organization, but there are organizations where security team have boats for evacuation. But what happens is, if the place is flooded, to prevent people from getting electrocuted, the government will shut down the powers. Okay. And it is very difficult for anyone to reach there, because the government will obviously barricade that place, not put anybody else in harm's way. So there are 2 or 3 ways of doing it. Yes, if we are able to do it through vehicle, perfect. We get the vehicle as close as possible, and then obviously they walk, obviously keeping their safety in mind. Second is use of boat. You will not get government boats, or if you call, say, some power contacts who might help you in peacetime, our contacts will not work during crisis, because there is already shortage of resources. So if you have your own, you can go and evacuate them. And of course, you should have evacuation experts, a vendor on board, if possible a helicopter where you can probably pull them from those buildings. But worst case scenario, what is the advice to our employees if they get stuck? They should just leave the lower floors, go above. If obviously they are in a 1 floor or 2 floor building, then obviously they will need to move out and try and get to higher grounds. Waiting for somebody to help them, I think is a unfair ask. I still remember the Chennai floods. I said, okay, fine, somebody's going to come and evacuate. He said, evacuate me, my mother, my father, my XYZ, my friends. I said, fine, I'll send a bus. Then he said, before you do that, pick up my car and put it in the service center. I'm like, come on, guy. Come on, let's be realistic. So there are various means of doing it. The point is, it has to be done before the crisis hits. All these capabilities needs to be built before you do it. We have evacuated people from some really bad locations like your Nepal earthquake, or even from the Chennai floods, which happened many years back, you will not get resources within the city. You may have to then pull in resources from outside the city. So we drew down from Bangalore. We got a boat which we use for evacuation. So there are a lot of ways, but you have to really stretch your imagination, get leadership, sponsorship to invest into these things. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of the limited resources at the disposal of the government.
Thank you, Suraj. Very well answered. And
Answer, Sushil. I know it's for Suraj, but I just want to add one.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I think in this question it was mentioned that government authorities may not respond to an organization's request, right? Which I don't think is true. We actually had an incident many years ago where there was floods in Srinagar, and one of our customers, used notification asking if somebody is safe or help. And one person said he needed help, and we could track the location through a system that that person was stuck in some school. We spoke to that person. He said, "Yes, I'm stuck in a school here." Now, organizations were not allowed to even go there and perform any kind of rescue operations, but they intimated the response team of the government. They were happy. I think their goal objective of the government is to rescue people. They might not know at times where they should go and rescue people from, but I think they were happy to help that person rescue out of that building and get to a safe place. So
I'm with you. I think crisis response is something that governments are designed to do and they are supposed to do. But probably what happens is that they get overwhelmed by the number of requests. And that is where they have to prioritize. They have to do a triage. They have to figure out, okay, where is the actual emergency? And then they also have to balance their own interests because they have their own officials, their own officials, families to look after. They may not have the capacity to take on such wider requests. So to be absolutely fair to them, it's just probably a question of overload of capability and not any hesitancy on their part to be willing to chip in and help out. But thank you so much, and thanks for the contributions, folks. And
just to add, whenever this crisis hit, you will have tons of numbers coming from all across the University of WhatsApp. None of them would work because they are overwhelmed with so many requests. It is only the company if they have the capabilities to take care of our employees.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Very illuminative views from everyone. And with that, I'd officially like to close the panel and hand over to you, Aishwarya.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the panelists for answering the questions of the participants. Now, for the third and final panel discussion, we have Mr. Pawan Desai moderating the session on tech trends and opportunities in corporate security, risk, and resilience. Mr. Pawan is a certified information systems auditor, certified information systems security professional, and a certified business continuity professional. He's a distinguished naval veteran, engineer, master of business administration, alumnus of Stanford University, and an IVLP fellow of the US State Department. Pawan Desai is the co-founder and CEO of MitKat Advisory and a successful tech entrepreneur. He has been closely involved with building of MitKat's datasurfer.ai platform and taking it global as well. A leading expert on security and operational risks, Pawan Desai gets invited to prestigious defense and management institutes, including College of Defense Management and ISB, as well as leading forums across the world, including Horace's, OSAC, and BCI, to share his thoughts. Please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Pawan sir, who will be guiding the upcoming session.
Thank you very much, Aishwarya. Thanks for, so I told you to shorten the introduction. So if this was shortened, then I don't know what long means on that, right? Thank you very much for the, so for last, I think almost now 2.5 hours, I've been writing notes, and I think I've filled up almost 5 pages. There's so much of learning which has happened from amazing guys, and every speaker who has been coming is talking about amazing stuff. So I would like to continue that trend, and so a lot of pressure on the 6 people who are there on the panel, on the next panel. What I'll do is very quickly introduce all of them. I think you know most of them, but just I should do my duty as a moderator and just start my introduction talk maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute just setting the stage, and then we'll move on to the. So I think earlier it was more of a geopolitics panel, the travel risk and tech, but now everybody's talking about tech. So maybe the tech panel will have to talk about maybe non-tech or a human aspect of the whole. That is what I feel might be the difference, because everybody spoke about the tech part of in the earlier sessions. So very quickly, let me just introduce the panel which we have. Again, not in any particular order, but yes, I will start with Divya. Divya Tyagi is Senior Specialist. She is a Threat Risk and Research Analyst at Fidelity Investments. She leads the Threat and Risk Analysis Program for ASOC, which is Asia Security Operations Center at Fidelity Investments. She is an experienced intelligence professional. We would like to hear a lot of case studies from her side. She is also Masters in International Studies and works extensively on creating impact assessments for Asia Pacific, Europe, and parts of African region. Welcome, Divya. We have Prem Osborne. He's a Vice President for Asia Pacific at Everbridge. He brings over almost 2 decades of experience within communication, cybersecurity, governance, GRC industries. He has extensively worked in multiple regions, multiple geographies. So I'm sure we'll be picking his brains on various how things works in different part of the world. He speaks frequently to professional and education groups. He's also worked closely with industry groups in an advisory position, has an interest in digital transformation, big data, and AI technology. We have Saurabh Technology, Resiliency and Security Manager Asia for McKinsey & Company, the company which teaches everybody a lot of things. So we will like to learn from Saurabh in this session. He has 2 decades plus of experience, though he doesn't look that old. Currently, he is a Resilience and Security Manager, which includes, why I'm specifying this again, because that also includes APJ region is there. Also, he has worked with HPE, Hewlett Packard, and also NSS. He's a diverse professional, having commitment to excellence in resilience, security, and strategic management. Then we have Sumit Sharma. He's a CSO India and Head of Group Security at Capgemini. Again, almost 2 decades of experience in various MNCs and also distinguished service with military. He is one of the guys who, most of the guys from security moved to CRE. He's the guy who moved from CRE to security. So we'd like to learn why was that move and what is motivating him to stay in security. He's passionate about an open and participative security culture, and a very interesting thing which I picked up. So we'd like to understand more about that. The security culture which drives brilliance and profitability. So usually profit is not something which we associate with security. So we'd like to know more on that. Previously, it worked with Colt and also Alliance Technologies. Then we have, of course, Dr. Feroz. He needs no introduction. He's well known in this fraternity. Currently, he is a CSO at Delivery. Very forward-thinking guy. He was the guy who used to talk about technology when nobody used to talk about technology. So an amazing. Whenever you meet up with him, talk to him, you get a lot of learnings. He currently is in the e-commerce industry, experience of 3 decades plus. Also, he was in his earlier avatar, Superintendent of Police from Pondicherry, with expertise in trafficking investigations, drug enforcement, electronic surveillance, fraud risk, and I think I can go on and on his certification also. Last but not the least, we have Colonel Mandeep Man. So, sir, the CV which I got was having a career of 15 years. So I'm sure you'll be happy with that comment. So I think there are 30 years which were missing somewhere, which we have to figure out from that. He has been seasoned professional both in military as well as in corporate sector. Formerly, the last appointment was Vice President at Barclays, and I think he took a lot of initiatives, which I'm sure we'll be discussing about in Barclays and his earlier avatars at Orkash and HCL also. Again, as I said, so very experienced. We have a very experienced panel, so we'll like to keep it short, crisp as the earlier 2 panels. So earlier 2 panels has managed that we started dot at 12:30. So we would like to finish the 3rd session also dot at 1:15. That we should have that. So let's be precise and let's be very, very, let's do better than earlier panels. is there. Just to start with my understanding of the technology, again, that technology is something which everybody talks about. I don't know how much is the understanding everybody has. The more I read the more I talk to people, I realize that I know lesser and lesser about technologies. But one thing, one of the papers I was reading recently, I like that what are the 5 trends which are picking up in physical security industry. I just thought I'll just share those ideas which I picked up, and I think the panelists can build upon that, and we'll go in a round robin league way. So 5 factors which are coming up, which is very visible in bits and pieces, which is coming up. One is in terms of AI. AI, we talk about AI, but AI in this year and next few years, which we'll see, we'll start seeing the advantage, and we'll start seeing how it is going to enhance the security operations. Second is in terms of IoT. So IoT, everything is getting connected now with drones coming in, so many other things which are coming in, mobility, and every domain which we are getting, which will get connected with security over a period of time. All the IoT devices and sensors will automate physical security. Now, currently we have IoT devices, but the automation is still not evolved. That is what I see in next coming few years. It is going to improve and drastically change the way we do security. Also, a cloud-based security management platforms will improve the security operations drastically. Currently, it is the platforms which we are using is a hybrid model. We'll see the cloud adoption much higher in this sector. Also, the mobile security applications. So, gone are the days where we need to have large centers where people have to come and sit and take decisions. Everything is going to go towards miniaturization and virtualization in the next couple of years. And the last thing, which is the most important, which currently I feel not many CSOs or the functions are doing, is taking data-driven decisions. Currently, most of the security decisions are still the life cycle, whatever life cycle we are capturing the data, it is still on decision is very perceptive. I feel in the future, we will have more data-driven decisions, and humans will be adding value over and above that, not in taking mundane decisions which are taken. This is just, I thought, I felt, which is happening in the tech sector. But I would like to start with maybe the people who have actually done it on ground, which is there. I'd like to start with Colonel Maan first, just to get his view on. Yes, we are talking about technology. Everybody's talking about technology. It has developed a lot in last few years. Adoption also we are seeing in various shapes and forms in various industry, banking industry, the various industry it is getting adopted. But when you talk about the willingness and ability for us to change and us to adopt the whole thing, do you see a challenge in that? And what is your view on the adoption of the entire technology piece as a part of the value chain of security?
Hi, thanks, Pawan, for the brief introduction. Just for information, I am also planning to do an ultra marathon, which is for the veterans. And we'll be doing about 1,000 kilometers in the month of March, ending in somewhere in the middle of April. So if any one of you is keen and a good runner, we are, ready to partner and probably provide you all the support along the border areas, because Army has kind of been kind enough to give us that consent. Okay, firstly, thanks for this fantastic, I would say, the speakers, as well as this kind of a forum wherein we are able to exchange our thoughts and also understand what the challenges are. I'm not a very, when you said subject matter expert, I'm a very practical person in terms of the technology, because most of the time I've been the user of the technology. So what I find, there's a lot of noise. I hope there is no noise.
Yeah, let's change.
Some kind of a aircraft flying. Just give me a minute.
Oh, it is fine, sir. Now it's okay. Sorry for that.
Sorry, because there's some bit of flying going around over here. So what I look at is that there is a huge, I would say, opportunity for India in the artificial intelligence field, blockchain, machine learning. And we need to capture that or capitalize that. Even now, when I'm speaking, kind of reading about it, I find that we are way down in the, I would say, the food chain in terms of the research. Though we have a lot of people who are working in this artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain technologies for the multinational companies, but we are still not there where we should be. Now, the role of this is going to change in a very drastic way. Whether we are ready for it, whether the security world is ready for it, that's a question which we need to ask. Because when I was in Barclays, what I found challenging was the ability to collate the kind of data which is required for these kind of technologies. So we still do not have, I would say, the kind of neuro-linguistic programming and the the open text features which are very dynamic and which can be utilized in a proactive and a manner wherein we will have a very predictive threat intelligence. So we need to think about it, how we can do it. Obviously, there will be requirements, regulatory requirements, compliance requirements within the organization who will influence these decisions. But we need to find a way how we can utilize this data. The second thing is, now there is like we found that during COVID time, the supply chains were disrupted. And the blockchain technology is available. In fact, the Reserve Bank of India has already started using the blockchain technology in a very, very limited way in the digital currency which they are providing. It's still a pilot case which is going on. But I think that's a good use case where we are using the blockchain technology in India. But in the security world, I have yet to see how we can utilize the blockchain technology. Now, as far as the like your own platform is concerned, I heard your speaker about how you are utilizing and how you are evolving through the artificial intelligence. But what my understanding is that it has to be automated in terms of evolving also. We may have to do some bit of coding around it. And obviously, there will be challenges in terms of the biases, errors, human errors, and transparency around it, that we are not, focusing on a particular state or particular area. We need to, work on that. So those are the areas which we need to work. The last but not the least, which I look at, is the IoT. Now, IoT has provided us an opportunity wherein we can have, I would say, an integrated security system and automation in terms of the security risk assessments, at least in the systems field only, not in the geopolitics. But yet geopolitics can also be looked upon for automation using the open text, I would say, configuration and NLP. But in the systems, yes, we can do that. But the major challenge in those which we are going to be facing is because of the huge infrastructure and the I would say the attack surface increasing, the challenges in terms of the vulnerabilities will also increase that many. And that can become a major I would say, a disruptor in adopting new technology. But there is no going back now. I feel that the technologies are here to stay and we may have to adopt fast. Companies are looking at it. If they have to remain competitive, they will have to adopt new technology. But I still feel that there is still some bit of skepticism around, at least what I have seen in my present or rather in the last couple of years in India, that there is still some skepticism which we may have to overcome, but we need to do it fast. That's all. Thank you.
I think it's an amazing opening remark on this. Just a point, I'll just take it here before I come back to Graham on this. So you talk about a research. So if you see European industry or American industry, a lot of these projects or the new technologies funding is done actually by the industries and academia. I don't think or I am not aware of. Do we have those kind of? There are a lot of great small entrepreneurs, young people who are ready to work on AI, ML, IoT, drones. Amazing. But do we have that kind of an attitude or an appetite in industry to fund these projects? I have not seen that coming from industry side, because I'm talking about the forum because we are almost 300 plus people and they are all stalwarts who are listening to that. So can we have that coming on from the side of industry, which we feel is I don't think so. We have they want everything to be made, but how many times they want to fund these projects which can be built up and it can help the fraternity or the community at large beneficial, of course, solving their problems. But I feel that is one of the major gaps. But taking up from there, I think what all Colonel Wan said, Graham, I think you work a lot, and I think at Everbridge on all these issues which he spoke about. It's a perfect landing point for you from that. So when we talk about the things which are there in terms of the automation, the IoT vulnerabilities on this thing, most of the security platforms are still seen from a security perspective or a protection perspective. When we start looking the entire thing from a risk prism, what is the risk? Because then the cost becomes a very different thing. So your thoughts on how do we start looking this thing more from a risk prism rather than a Prism.
Yeah, I think it's a great starting point. I think that the core aspect when I look at this is every single system that we invest in within our organizations becomes a data set for our risk posture moving forwards. And the core challenge is and I think sometimes our own internal politics get in the way of this, is there is an ecosystem from which we can pull data from to make more informed decisions. You know, you were talking about your number 5 point being a data-driven decision, right? Every single piece of data that is required for a security team to act is within the ecosystem of the organization, one way or another. It's, well, how did we leverage technology to bring that information together? And, you know, the core for me is coming from a cyber background. What I've seen is there's always a much more focus on speed in cyber, because cyber suddenly people panic, and there's always been this measurement perspective. We come into the security world, we're starting to see it now where the external, internal security risk postures and the internal and external security tool sets and data sets are starting to come together to enable people to make more informed decisions. So when I was listening to the previous panel, we're talking about duty of care, and they were talking about certain words such as common sense, situational awareness, knowledge. But all of these things can be captured and can actually be utilized within technology today. And then it's how we use them, how we present that information. I think some of the biggest challenges that we've seen with organizations is actually getting to the information is taking too much time, which is increasing the pressure on the individual when they're responding, which then creates a lapse in common sense. Right? And the challenge we've got is when I look up, you know, the esteemed panel that we've got and other people, not everybody has the experience within the organization to deal with events at the same level. But there's so we have to enable the individual. So when we come back to the points that you're mentioning, I think the core aspect is the consolidation of the ecosystem, and it's the speed in which we can deliver information or make sense of information is where the biggest benefit is going to come from technology. So for me, that's the core takeaway there.
Great. I think that reminds me of one of the great quote which I just posted from someone. It's not mine. So a great design or a great this thing is something which is invisible. If you don't see, that is the best design. So we don't have to worry about where is the data coming in, where is it going. It has to be designed that it works. Whosoever needs it, when they need it, it is available to them. I think that's the best design we can have. Thank you for that. That inputs. I'll move on to Sumit on this. Again, yes, I'm intrigued by that statement of profitability, and I'll like to pick that brain. But the question for me is that, yes, a lot of things are happening, and you always are very eager to learn newer things and what all can be implemented. So when we talk about the organizations and the implementations with the company like yours, when so much of IoT devices, so many platforms, so many softwares are getting integrated and everything is happening, and the architecture can change overnight. How do you see the entire physical security roadmap? Because it's so difficult to even create a roadmap for 2 years, 3 years down the line, because things can change because of newer and newer adaptability of technologies and platforms, which is there with pressures of clients, which is coming on you. How do you see, how do you keep yourself sane? And how do you maybe come out of that clutter and think sanely and say, yes, this is what we need, this is what should be done? And what is your maybe idea on the physical security roadmap for us?
Thanks, Pawan. That's a very good question. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I think the answer to this question is to understand the industry and the overall business world around you. If, as security manager, as earlier was said by a lot of panelists, we are aware of the business and the direction in which business is going, it becomes very easy for us to understand the places we need to secure and invest. I think the good part of your Mars conclave is that it happens immediately after we come back from our vacation. So it gives time for all of us to understand the maddening change which is happening in the world. So I was digging into a book trying to decode the 5th industrial revolution. And that is where I came across a very good quote by Pranjal Sharma, who's the author of that book. And I quote, he says, the fourth industrial revolution was about the application of emerging technologies, which were connected, interactive, and intuitive. The end objective was to drive the maximum cost and time efficiency. The fifth improves on the fourth. It is more caring. The additional objectives are sustainability, governance, and social impact, unquote. So I think from this quote, what we can understand is where the world of business is going. The fifth industrial revolution, we all are living now, and it will add a layer of humanity to the existing and emerging technologies. That's what is going to happen. Business rules are being redefined by ethics and value-based demands of the ESG norms. That is something which we all are observing. The three forces of technological breakthroughs which I'm seeing are demand for social inclusion and sustainable development are causing global shifts in the business models. These forces also are becoming the key pillars of this technology-led transformation. So if I have to kind of categorize them, let us talk about the tech breakthroughs. The key tech breakthroughs which we are going to see in the coming days is, of course, the rise of Gen AI. In addition to this, there is going to be a big disruption in the material science industry, which is largely focused on miniaturization, making things stronger, more resilient, and so on in the future. And of course, the new fuels revolution, which we all are seeing because it's also connected to the geopolitics of the world. The second focus is on the value ethics, safety, and social equity. So what we are going to also see is an increased governance focused on inclusion, which means people and markets which were excluded till now are the markets which will get included starting 2024 onwards, which creates a lot of opportunity for security again. And then, of course, none of this can be done anymore if we overlook the climate change goals or the sustainable development goals, which have been very clearly laid down in terms of commitments by the corporates. With this backdrop, today's business models are changing faster than the ability of most of the executives to understand, absorb, or even adopt them. That is where the role of corporate security professionals gets highlighted, and it creates an opportunity for them or the CSOs to be the trusted consultants on the table. Right. Agility now is understood differently. Agility is not about changing in 3 years as it was earlier. It is now about shifting strategy and adapting technology and policies in just 6 months. It's increasingly appearing that the success and the failure are a game of change and not only skill anymore. So agility is the foundation of stability in the world of uncertainty. This is something which has been realized by us going through multiple global crises in the last 3 to 4 years. And this constant change is creating almost a $25 trillion USD global business opportunity over the next 5 years through technology. And that is where it creates an exciting time for corporate security industry in 2024. From increased demand, as you said, for cloud and technology, to the challenge that actually did not improve as expected in 2023 for us. Right. The integration of new applications in corporate security has increased and does not show signs of any slowdown, especially adoption of cloud in security, safety and risk industry has been quite gradual, but has started accelerating towards the Q4 is what I have seen all over the world. The future of most of such solutions is slowly moving to a blend of on-premises and cloud-based solutions, and in some cases for advanced companies to a private cloud as well. Sure. As a result, the cyber threats, privacy concerns, and the duty of care obligation continues to remain high priority CapEx and OpEx upgrade opportunity for the CSOs in 2024. So that is where I feel the profitability business will come. And in a while, I think, the opening remarks were supposed to be of 3 minutes. So I think I'm at 3. But then if you want me to continue, I can continue it on the IoT devices as well.
I'll come back to you again. So when we listen, it looks like longer. When we speak, it looks like shorter. So it's always the case on that. But you are on time. So that's good. Thank you. Thanks. I think you opened up a totally different dimension of this thing. So as I said in the starting, in last few years, whenever I led a technology panel, it talks about everything other than technology. So I think you added a new flavor of SDG and everything to that. So that's a great sign to that. Let me move to Divya on this aspect. You have been implementing a lot of things. So yes, we are talking about AI, a lot of things are happening, but I think you have been a practitioner, you have seen things implementing in new IoT things which are there. Do you want to give some case studies, how it has been implemented, how has it been benefited the company, the organization, the fraternity and community at a large, very crisp from your side views?
Yes, Pawan, thank you so much. And yes, there have been, almost everybody before me has said, the technological advancement in the past at least decade has been so immense that companies are still grappling with it, how to cope with that. So there have been a lot of other tools and technologies that has been filtered down, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. And that has helped the companies in understanding what exactly is required and how to cope with it. But in addition to this, what I feel as the intelligence analyst part of it is the risk landscape has stretched on so much that things that were very Hollywoodish incidents were out of our imagination are actually currently happening right now. And I think as security professionals, we need to understand that as equivalent, the innovation is as far as creative as you could think. The risk is also as creative as you can get. And one such example that I thought would be very interesting to know, because which I stumbled upon accidentally during one of those rabbit hole reading spree of mine, was during 2019, late December 2019-20. Of course, the world was grappling with COVID and we were overwhelmed with what was happening in that sphere. But there was another interesting scenario playing out in China itself during that period of time. And I trust me, I never imagined I would be speaking about swine flu or swine fever or pig meat between such esteemed panel, but that is such the case. So in China, Chinese mafia, there's a group of gang leaders who have a very strong monopoly over pig meat, right? And the January part is the Chinese New Year as well. So what happened was, when the African swine flu broke off in December 2019 around, these Chinese mafia deployed the technology of drones. They took drones, they attached the infected pig meat into these drones, and then they flew them across multiple big agricultural companies and pig farms, and dropped these infected pig meats into the pigsty, spreading the African swine flu immensely. Okay. And in the beginning, till now, it's still not our concern, right? Like pig farms, all right, okay, though Chinese people were not able to have pig meat at a reasonable cost. But what happened next was, because Chinese government was slow in reacting to this situation, the farmers or the big farming companies took it upon themselves and started employing anti-drone technologies or interface to block these drones coming in and dropping these pig meats into their farms. That anti-drone technology had started then interfering with the civil aviation, the regional civil aviation. So imagine from something, a very personal or a very vendetta criminal non-state actor using a technology that can interfere into civil aviation. That is something, at least when I read it, I thought it was a Hollywood movie, but then that actually happened. And ultimately the Chinese government did take actions on it. But that is something that that made me understand, made me aware of the fact that the risk landscape is increasing with immense speed, and we need to at least be as optimistic or as creative in understanding, okay, so when we are, as I think Suraj and a lot of other people mentioned, the simulation exercises that we think of, we need to put in all of these things. And there are n numbers of other case studies. For example, there was this the hoax bomb threat, which has become currently very prevalent in Bangalore, especially with schools getting emails and everything. Back in 2019 or early 2020, I'm not sure. One of these years, the police of Madhya Pradesh police tracked down a teenager boy in Tamil Nadu, Chennai, who had created a simple internet bot program with very simple Python language and sold it off to a non-state actor or or an ex-person who then instigated a lot of hoax bomb threat calls into these institutions. So imagine, like, everybody can become a threat at the blink of an eye with the technologies and the creds that we have.
Great.
So yes, so I think with this I would give
I
it
really
back to you,
like that.
Pawan.
I think last 10 years, Suraj has been saying that we should be called ourselves the risk managers. I think you have given a new dimension. We should be called ourselves as creative directors. I think
Creative.
I think that's the
Absolutely,
new designation for security heads, I think. Right. So I think moving on, thanks, Divya, for amazing insights on that. What a small thing can become a major issue, which is there. I like to move to Dr. Feroz on this. I think every forum you go, everywhere you talk about, every organization you talk about, it's all about supply chain. It's all about supply chain disruption, supply chain efficiency, supply chain management, and everything is boiling down now for any kind of an industry is all about supply chain. I think no better than you to talk about the entire evolution of supply chain industry and security aspect of that, and what do you see is the future going to come on this?
Thank you so much, Pawan. It's really lovely to be here on the March 2024. Best wishes for the new year, belated, but let's look at 2024 and how we can use better technologies to improve things. Well, let me first say my KRA almost every year for the last 4-5 years, which I remember, has been proactively looking at the fraud data. This has not changed.
Okay.
Now, but if we see the way we used to do it, maybe 8 years back, we had a 2 factorial analytics, which is delivered, not delivered.
Good.
After that, it became 4 factorial, 16, 64. So is what we are running at. So that's the way we are trying to analyze the data. I mean, initially when we were delivering 10 years back, we were just delivering maybe a few hundred shipments. An Excel sheet was sufficient to manage the data, and also give information to consignees, clients, and everything. I mean, that has really moved on. I mean, we today at 2.1 billion shipments delivered and running. So that requires a completely different infrastructure in supply chain to be able to look at this much of data, to absorb it in real time, and the velocity at which the fresh data is coming in, to reanalyze that and to decide and take decisions, whether it's on consignees, whether it's on sellers, whether it's on clients, whether it's on payment patterns, on particular cities, particular product lines, things like that. So I think the role of the CSO itself has changed. I mean, as Pawan rightly said, a security manager became a social manager when there's a strike or a dharna or something like that. Then you become a cyber manager when there's some cyber fraud cases, things like that. You become a loss prevention manager, you become a risk manager. So I really don't know how it keeps evolving. I'm not really sure how does the salaries change over time, as the designations and the desire for CSOs to be able to transform, to keep working as the landscape gets transformed. See, the good thing about India is that considering our population, considering our total consumption pattern itself, it's so huge. And there's such a young population available to work in different areas. So I mean, you'll always have various things happening. And the economy, there's no stopping right now for the next, I don't know, 10, 20 years. There's absolutely no stopping. So we've got to upskill ourselves. We've got to change ourselves along with the things which keep happening. Businesses keep scaling up. If you imagine, recently you would have heard about the various fintech cyber scam which has happened. And there was some 7 lakh cell numbers which were blacklisted by the government in a single day. There were some 800 crores of cash which was transacted from one bank to another bank, and in that process 150 crores got missed out. So, and all this now is being done. So it's all about a cat and mouse game. I mean, the criminals and the fraudsters are also upskilling themselves, believe me. They are also learning new methods, new patterns, and things like that. So it's a question of how are we able to think and transform ourselves with better or faster speed, or be left behind in the race. So, I mean, with something like 18,400 pin codes, 25 lakh shipments every day, 75 crores of cash coming in every day, which has to be deposited in the banks from something like 4,400 warehouses across the country, tier 3, 4, 5, whatever you may call it, cities. So I mean, one is the people safety part of it. What concerns us primarily, of course, is the package safety, because people, regardless of the situation on the ground, even if there's a riot running yesterday, yaar, kal to khatam ho gaya riot, I need my shipment today, it should have arrived. So the question is, how are you able to adaptively use the network to be able to finally deliver people the packages that is required safely and manage it along? I think there's so many things which are being done, whether there's, I mean, technology, not just from data aspect, whether it is CCTV AI plugins, whether it is platforms for how do you be able to input your data and output it at a velocity and a quantum, which is ever growing and which will continue to keep changing. So that's probably our biggest challenge, and we keep working on it every year, believe me. And somehow every next year, every next Diwali, that's when we review our plans. Every next Diwali, we find that we've got to now develop things fresh. We decide at the end of it, whatever worked last year, next year it won't work. So we've got to think fresh. Thanks.
Thank you. I think great insights and the amazing amount of numbers which you churned out. And the more you spoke, the more scarier it became. On that, thank you for that. But yes, there is no escaping, as I think Mukesh Ambani said yesterday. I think nobody can stop us. We are going to be $35 trillion. He's not talking about $4 or $5 trillion. We are talking about $35 trillion economy. Right. So thanks a lot for that. Let's look at a very slightly different angle to it here. With all these things coming in and a lot of things are happening, I'll get Saurabh in on this. So what is your take on the industrial espionage and then that factor and the risk to travel, risk to human aspect of it, and how do we use technologies and systems and processes for that angle of it?
Thanks, Pawan. Happy New Year, everyone, and apologies for being the last chap yakking before lunch. Yeah,
last is always the best. Yeah, last is the best. Yes.
But loved hearing all of the panelists, not just this one, but the previous ones as well. Brilliant inputs. Thanks so much. I learned a lot about how cyber becomes relevant. Protecting travelers, how geopolitical issues come together, and all of these. How does that marry up with what we do during our day jobs, which is primarily physical security? I loved what Dr. Hussain said, right? I mean, are we the agony uncle? Are we the cyber lead or what have you, right? But physical security, obviously, is the first line of defense, right? It's very useful and quite mature in our workplaces. A complement to information security, a complement to how we handle insider threats, how we handle various other things. It's the outer cover of the onion before cyber security measures come in. I think our ability to control when travelers move around is has always been iffy, and it is getting more. What I would like to quickly summarize over the next couple of minutes is a view of industrial espionage risks, which is likely to become far more bolder in targeting private technology companies and research institutes, where you got travelers to other countries. You've got travelers that have now in laptops, in phones, in what have you, all the devices that we carry, treasure troves of intellectual property. And they're as they move away from the protection of things like your home office network or your own office, what kind of basic advice or measures can we actually put in place from a security point of view, right? And maybe a quick segue or a background story, right? The industrial espionage is not new. It's been around for as long as there was industry, right? So there've been famous cases, 16th century stealing of by the Venetians of porcelain manufacture from Germans who had in turn stolen it from the Far East. Or in 1848, a case much more interesting for me personally, because I love studying about our colonial past and our past as well. The East India Company had broken China's near monopoly on tea production by smuggling Chinese tea out of the nation and copying Chinese tea making processes. What was the background? How did it happen? The empire had previously run a considerable trade deficit with China by importing a huge amount of tea and of course other goods, right? And they needed to pay with silver. The Honorable East India Company, who at the time was also running one of the biggest narco states ever in history. I mean, forget about whatever the South Americans can do. These guys were really at a different level. They attempted to rectify this by trading opium, and obviously the Chinese resisted. The emperor banned trade, and notwithstanding the First Opium War, the deficit was still not where the EIC or the East India Company wanted it to be. Right, to further avoid issues of trading tea with China, what the East India Company did was they hired a Scottish botanist called Robert Fortune to travel to China. And in the guise of a Chinese nobleman, he stole trade secrets, saplings, and got back people who would help set it up in India. These helped India become the number one tea manufacturer. It took almost a century for the Chinese to come back, and still in the Western world, the number one tea is Indian tea. Would highly recommend reading a book called All the Tea in China by a remarkable lady called Sarah Rose. Now, in today's world, again, geopolitically, etc., the espionage capability or the sources seems to have the table seem to have turned. A lot of organizations are now becoming increasingly sensitized to illicit technology transfer, hacking activity, and even state-sponsored activity, right, of stealing secrets. Some businesses and private actors are also likely to leapfrog, right, by stealing IP technology. So especially if the sector that you're working in, or the work that you do, or the company that you support, it is getting more and more important. I think a couple of data points. The MITR attack framework has attributions of cyber attacks from obviously a lot of the countries that we already know, right? Like Russia, Iran, North Korea. But there's also China, Vietnam, Pakistan, and surprisingly UAE as well, where these cyber attacks or sponsored attacks do come in from. There's another quote that I really like from the director of FBI in the US. He said, "We've now reached a point where the FBI is opening a new China-related counterintelligence case almost every 10 hours." Right. So now, what are the solutions? There are a lot of tech solutions to all of these things, but in my mind, it is quite simple in terms of limiting the amount of data that people take. right? Use things like burner devices, enable things like two-factor authentications, right? So don't take your regular mobile phone, right? Where whatever you are taking with you in terms of your devices to a country where you do not trust what will happen to that data. Simple solutions. But yeah, I hope I've not overdone it. And back to you, Pawan.
Yes, thank you. I think amazing insights on this part of it. Yes, we need to do a lot of things on that. So I'm going to do slightly differently because we are just on time. I think we have exceeded a couple of minutes. So we'll do a very quick 3 minutes wrap up session. It's going to be a googly round. So I'm not going to ask the question which I have sent you. So it is going to be different. Is Colonel Man there? So just to start with you, what is your advice to the new generation of CSOs which are coming up? Just not more than 30 seconds. So I think, how do they have to look at the security and what challenges they are going to face in their career?
Okay, so first thing, I think one point which also came up from Divya was that you have to be very creative in security now. You cannot be predictive. You have to be unpredictable in the way I would say the attacker is going to be. So you have certain, I would say, measures which are kept predictive within the security, but certain elements kept unpredictable, which are not seen, whether it is in the cyber world, whether it is in the physical security world. That's the one thing. Second thing is you'll have to integrate your systems because you cannot manually man everything, because the kind of area which is increasing and the kind of challenges and I would say applications of those security. And the third thing I would say is that we have to get on with the artificial intelligence in a big way to make decisions proactive, as well as ability to I would say process huge amount of data using machine learning. These are the three takeaways from my side. Thank you, Pawan.
Thank you very much. Graham, on you, with the multi-dimensional and multi-country regulations which are coming up left, right, and center on privacy, how do you manage data from multi-countries?
Yeah, the core aspect behind it is from that perspective, we have to operate within the laws of the country, but also provide the service to the individuals. Right. So for me, the core aspect is the opt-in methodology has to provide value to the individual. And that's where we're seeing a lot of our customers focusing their efforts internally on the cultural elements to provide value to the individual to then get the data that's required. So we have to change the mindset to be a value house to the individual, not just from a corporate perspective.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Divya, I think there are more than 100 women who are still on the session which is there. What is your advice? So now it is all about the insights which is there, and women have a better insight than men. That is, I have been told that which is there. So what's your advice to the women CSOs and the budding CSOs which are coming up? Is there, how can they do a better job than most of the counterparts?
I think, Pawan, just to be a little biased, I think women are better at it because of their multitasking capabilities. And the only thing I would suggest, not just women, in fact, everybody to rise up in the ranks or to gain experiences, to just read up. The more situationally aware you are, the more you're aware of what is happening around you, the more it'll help you to connect the dots with what is required for your business versus what is just for your, fun and reading. So gaining up, absorbing as much knowledge as not just from the open source, but from veterans and experienced personnel like you. So networking, gain up.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Coming to Firoz sir, I've seen whenever we talk about e-commerce industries or that space, amount of data they use for decision making is phenomenally, and in all the business, not sector physical security per se, but everywhere. We have seen a huge difference in the other industries. If you say the counterparts on physical security, they are still not using the data while the processes are same, everything is same. Where are the problems? Where do you think they are not able to use it? Any insights on that?
Sure. Well, for an e-commerce industry, I guess you don't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Every year, the e-commerce industry, because it's today at just a couple of percentage, while in China, probably online e-commerce business is about 25%. So the growth in the industry itself, probably the sheer momentum ensures that unless you keep going with the ability to be able to transact with data, it will not be possible to move forward. But I think everywhere, other places also, physical security guys have done a really good job. I mean, we should give kudos to them, especially during the COVID, where they did get to know the complete data of the organization. I mean, each and every person by name, by cell, by city, by address, by location, and his relatives and his friends and things like that. And what does he need? And what are the items which has to be delivered to him on a SOS basis. So I think they've done reasonably well. Plus the amount of interactions which they do with, whether it is government stakeholders, whether it's Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Home, or their own community. You know, there's a community interaction and there's a government level interaction or a ministerial level interaction. So I think that has been going on. But it requires a lot of concerted effort that we should keep thinking of structuring new programs on a every quarter basis, so that this is my focus for this quarter, this is my focus for this quarter, and finally in the year I am able to provide a value add to the organization. So that's the most important thing according to me.
Thank you. Coming to Sumit, yes, you talk about security, physical security a lot, but you told everybody has to learn about SDGs and this thing. So what is your advice to the security professionals? What is the next certification they should be doing? Everybody talks about CPP. I think we'll have other certification which needs to be done just to survive in the future.
So Pawan, I don't consider myself so qualified that I can advise the set of rich, experienced people sitting all across. But then I think I can definitely share my own experience with them. What I have realized is the rate at which there's a digitization happening overall in the security systems. We have almost reached an inflection point where the digital part of physical security and the digital part of the whole risk management of security is going to overwhelm the complete portfolio of a security manager. And a lot of physical security activities are already sitting, or more or less already have been outsourced. So for security manager, what becomes important is to continue to have a simple outlook and a disciplined approach. It may sound quite different from what you expected me to tell, but then you need a simplified outlook to security and definitely a disciplined approach. It also requires a combination of technology solutions through a kind of a virtual SOC kind of an ability to handle, and best practices like any other security assignment, which probably they have been doing till now. I do agree with all the other panelists who talked about upgrading, who talked about knowing the regulation within your own countries and playing within that, understanding your business far more keenly than just trying to focus on the security aspect of your business. Because when you take that approach, you end up becoming reactive. But if you take the former approach, where you understand the business better, you become predictive and consultative. So if you are able to make yourself predictive and consultative, you have a better pie in the game and you have a better seat on the table. So I think if I have to, conclude this, I feel that there is a 1-year outlook which a security manager should have for himself. While a lot of you will disagree with me, it should be just 6 months, but then I still feel a 1-year outlook and then a 5-year outlook. So in the 1-year outlook, which I would want to share is that in 2024, all budding CSOs and risk professionals should focus on creating a data-driven, risk-based integrated security approach. For the 5-year, I think you guys will have to talk to me.
Sure, great. Thank you. Thank you, Sumit. Just ending up with Saurabh, in security industry has got a lot of inclusion. So now we have people not from armed forces, we have people, women, CSOs, and this thing is that what is your advice to people who are not from the armed forces to become successful as you have been in this industry? What we need to do, the young people need to do well.
Thank you so much for calling me successful. wouldn't say that. I've been incredibly lucky to have great mentors, and I think that is important, not just within your organization, but mentors like yourselves, Pawan, Colonel Sam, Colonel Sushil. So, it's a privilege, as Divya also mentioned, networking and then latching onto somebody's coattails, learning from somebody else's mistakes, right, and then not doing the same where you're at, and of course, just repeating what everybody else has said. I mean, it's just intelligently absorbing, and then doing good. What's that Japanese system, shokunin, right, where you keep getting better at your job.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. I think amazing. Sorry, we don't have time. We have already overshot the thing, but thank you very much and amazing insights from each one of you. I'll hand it over back to Aishwarya for this. Thank you once again, everyone.
A great final session for the day. I express sincere gratitude to the chair and such trailblazers of the industry for joining us. Your insights on issues such as vulnerabilities of the Internet of Things, industrial espionage, funding challenges, as well as aspects of profitability and resilience in the face of such complexities can equip, especially those who are entering the industry right now, to become more forward thinking and creative, like was mentioned during the session, when it comes to dealing with security issues. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the end of the event, I would like to invite Colonel Sam to please sum up and provide us with some concluding thoughts. So,
I'm sure everybody who has stayed on for 3.5 hours, I'm sure you'll give me another 6 to 7 minutes. Ash, I will take 2-3 minutes of your time. Is that fine? So thank you. I will go rapid fire. I'll try to sum up from what I have learned today. Graham, wonderful to see you. Before that, thank you for joining. I know you're making it, you're extremely busy. I know that. And thank you for making it. So ladies and gentlemen, we have had a fascinating 3.5 hours of learning and sharing. We discussed the full array of risks and probably left out much more, which could have been covered. Their impact on businesses and what we should be doing. Also words of wisdom for young professionals. General Sharma talked about 2024 being a defining year geopolitically. India's growth trajectory, despite turbulence all around, remains robust. General talked about fragile peace, unstable global order characterized by polarizing narratives, hint of some socio-economic strain, and some slight mend in Indo-China relations. Ladies and gentlemen, tech risks remain unchecked. Misinformation and disinformation will travel faster and further, and truth will be under strain in 2024. Simmering geopolitical tensions along with technology will drive new security risks. In my panel, Captain Sanjay Sharma talked, the global security head of Wipro talked about cyber physical challenges, fake news, geopolitical tensions, natural disasters, societal polarization, and regulatory challenges. He talked about the need for talent management, conversations with the board, and much more. Sanu talked about the supply chain risks. He took the example of Panama Canal and how climate risks are leading to supply chain risks. He talked about Grey Rhino, stumped us with solar storms and its impact on internet communications. I'm sure Graham and Dhaval and all the other entrepreneurs and Feroz and everyone else, they're working on a solution for the solar storm. And Sanu will say, look, I told you so. Sanveer talked about generative AI and deepfakes and impact on economic and national security, the gray zone activities, and I love the term liar's dividend. Captain Rakesh Sharma said, hybrid is here to stay. Ethics is paramount. Salute the Tata Group, Wipro, Indian Army, every place that he worked in. Do it right. Pass the newspaper test. Good ethics and compliance makes good business sense. I think everybody agreed with that. Gaurav outlined the challenges for the gig economy. No central regulatory framework. Safety, health, and security risks for hundreds and thousands of gig workers, and these leading to friction and operational risks and financial, regulatory, and other risks. He talked about the similarity between veterans, between war and startup environment. And I loved your advice to veterans. If you want peace posting, join big companies. If you want to another innings in war, join or build startup. Completely agree with that. Panel 2, very well steered by Sushil. Thank you, Sushil, for joining in. Guys, I love the commitment of my teammates also, and I have to. His son is traveling to UK and he's still not boarded the flight. He still was here, and Sushil is traveling to Bangalore. 1 hour. That is after attending a call with one of the Fortune 5 companies. So thank you, Sushil, for making it. You know, I must kind of really appreciate. And then good luck to Gaurav for good tenure in one of the top colleges in London.
Thank you.
Sai talked about the climate and ESG risks in my panel. He talked about cybersecurity being disruptive and game-changing. He talked about AI and data privacy, third-party and regulatory risks, a need for proactive risk management, and investing in technology and resources. In panel 2, Sushil's panel, Colonel Chandrawat, the President of Adani Group, started with the hard truth. If you don't understand geopolitics, you should not be in business. It talked about the troubled neighborhood, need to maneuver around geopolitical risks. A very pertinent question. Are we the masters of our craft? Good pulse of wisdom, situational awareness is critical. Understand geopolitics, have good local partners, understand local context, have emergency measures in place, be forewarned, be forearmed, be on top of things. So great pulse of wisdom. Mukesh, you talked about the area of internal challenges and risks. Project these issues to the leadership in the right time, in the right manner, and when they're in the right frame of mind, in the right context. So that is the mantra for success. Love that. Suraj Shankpal, poor urban infrastructure accentuates the impact of climate change. We need proactive crisis management and strengthening of resilience, and we need pre-crisis planning and preparation of frameworks for risk across the horizon, good crisis management and communication, and good post-crisis recovery. And we have some excellent platforms doing that. And of course, we need even better humans to manage them. Do not let your leadership be surprised. Have a plan for each risk. Ian, thank you for bringing duty of care to the center stage and need to avoid CYA and how to do that. Thank you for bringing the expat and cultural context of honking being used as a radar rather than picking up a fight. And I mean, thank you for bringing out the unique style of driving in India. And this is our time to shine as crisis professionals. We should be part of the business development and growth. And your pearl of wisdom, select your censorship. Dhaval, thank you for the innovative work and for your pearl of wisdom, thinking and doing out of the box, solve the real problems, have technology as the ally. Shekhar Rathri, decorated soldier, very apt advice. Rome was not built in a day. Build the travel security protocols, platforms bit by bit, listen to the mantras from leaders, OSAC, ACSG, MEA, consulate advisories. Every bit of information is important, even the MitKat alerts and advisories. Avoid what should be avoided, build risk and emergency protocols, and awareness will be the key. Coming to panel 3, again, very well moderated by Pawan. So Pawan, thank you for reminding that mobile cloud generative AI would choose the rules of the game, virtualization, miniaturization, more data-driven decisions, and leaving humans to do the value adds. Mandeep Mansar, before I quote what you said today, I remember one advice which you gave me long back. Seeds of failure are sown in the times of success. And I haven't got it wrong. Seeds of failure are sown in the times of success. That's the word of wisdom from a former Special Forces commanding officer. Remember it.
Just got to add here, Sam, be predictive in your, I would say, analysis, but always be unpredictable in your implementation on ground, because the enemy is going to bypass all your security. That's how we used to do it.
So stay ahead of the enemy, stay ahead of the bad guys, stay ahead of the events. I think that's a recurring theme from all Special Forces guys here. Thank you very much. Your apt advice to new generation CEOs, be creative and predictive, something Divya reiterated. Graham, deep gratitude to Team Everbridge for mainstreaming the term critical event management. And I think I see it getting much more traction. I think you've been part of popularizing this term in this part of the world. So thank you very much, and keep up the cutting edge work and helping governments and corporates in keeping people safe. You talked about compliance, culture, context, and finally adding real value to the customer. So keep up the amazing work. Sumit Sharma, thank you for talking about the fifth industrial revolution. You quoted my very dear friend Pranjal Sharma. In fact, by some coincidence, I received a message from him exactly 5 minutes back. And I told him that he has been extensively quoted in this. And thank you for talking about the fifth industrial revolution and how sustainability, governance, social imperatives, and adding a layer of humanity to technology would be the key. Pawan, as always, your whole technology panel was everything other than technology. Divya, thank you for, and Sumit, thank you for, those pearls of wisdom. Be predictive and consultative. Up the game. Divya Tyagi, thank you for amazing insights on how small things could become major issues. Creative director. I love that term. Creative director. And not only to women, but for everyone. Be more insightful, read up, improve situational awareness, gain up, connect the dots. Dr. Firoz Zia Hossain, you covered much from 2-factor to 64-factor analysis of data. I think by the time we end the panel, it would be 128 or 100 shipments, 2.5 million shipments, 100 to 2.5 million shipments per day, Excel sheets to complex data and delivery infrastructure and database decisions. And bad guys are moving fast. We need to move faster. Saurav Chatterjee, we saved deliberately the best for the last. Thank you for your kind words, and you covered much ground from East India Company, China, and thanks. I'll definitely have Indian tea. From today, I'll switch to Indian tea. Technology, simple solutions. You covered a lot of ground. I could go on and on. Sumit, you talked about data-driven, risk-based, integrated security. Saurav, your advice, have a great mentor, network, learn from others' mistakes, absorb, keep getting better. I could go on and on, but thank you very much once again to all esteemed speakers. Most importantly, big thank you to the audience, and many of you have stayed on here. Q&A, we tried to remain on top of it. Almost all questions answered when I started, but 2 more have come up, so we'll answer that. Big thank you to Aparna and Abhijit, the entire tech team of MitKat, Kunal, who worked behind the scenes to put it all together. Aishwarya, well done. Thank you. I think you all agree that Aishwarya did a good job. So thank you very much. Back to you. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you all for your outstanding participation and engagement at MitKat's first event of the year 2024. If any of your questions went unanswered, I apologize. And I would encourage you to please connect directly with our esteemed panelists to delve deeper into their perspectives. On another note, we are very thrilled to share that MitKat APAC Risk Symposium 2024 is scheduled for 2nd February, followed by Women in Intel Security, EHS and Resilience 2024 on 7th March. Save the dates, and we eagerly anticipate your presence at these upcoming events. You can stay informed about all of the events by following our LinkedIn or other social media channels, the links to which have been posted in the chat box. Additionally, if you wish to download the India Risk Review for this year, you can find it in the chat box as well. And we look forward to welcoming you at our next event. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.